Hello there! Welcome to the ReZero podcast. I'm your host, Wolf.
I'm your host, Gold.
I'm your host, Connor.
And today, gentlemen, we're going to be talking about, finally, Arcade Phase 1 of the ReZero web novel. We made it!
Yes, finally.
Oh my god, we did it!
And we're all caught up to the latest.
Oh.
I mean, I am.
Yeah, we know.
But by the time it took for us to get here, Arc 9 came out and is going strong.
Yeah.
But it's still exciting. I mean, I'm still excited to be here. I don't know about all of you, but I mean, hey, Arc 8 has been, I think, for the time that we've been a channel, the one that's been out the most, right? Longest in terms of like the four of us kind of taking over the channel again.
For the podcast, yes.
For sure, yeah.
Ever since we started the Arc 1 and Arc 2 recordings, I think Arc 7 was a few chapters in at that point, maybe like 20. Yep. And then when we started the podcast, Arc 8 was, I don't know, 1-2 phases in?
Yeah, sure. It was early Arc 8, I think, for sure.
And that's why, like, this progress of making it here, I mean, it's really exciting, right? Because it feels like we've been anticipating this eventuality for a long time. I have, as like a reader too, like a member of the community, have been like, I'm missing out on the recent arc, and I've been like, I should catch up to Arc 8, right?
Yeah,
that's what's been in my brain. So now we're finally here. I mean, we all have a lot of thoughts, right?
I mean, just the number of things that could have been spoiled from this first phase of this arc alone is insane.
God.
It makes me realize that, like, even though I have a few things spoiled, like, or like a major thing in this,
that arc, you know what the end is, that there's still so much along. I was the same way. I was probably halfway through Arc 8 when I found out like the main thing at the end of it. Still loved the ride all the way through. It's so good.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, and also it's like my expectations have been defied, if that makes sense.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
Because even as I've read Wikipedia articles in order to do research for the ReZero D&D that I do, I saw blurbs about certain characters and I was like, oh, that's all that this is about. Then I realized that actually a lot of them haven't been updated. So this is sort of around the time that all that information is kind of just gone.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, wait, this is the last thing that's ever been wrote on any of those Wikipedia. Yeah,
the stuff that you had read when you were starting the D&D campaign was, I think, 1, maybe 1.5 phases ahead of here, with like the latest level of spoilers that you had gotten, aside from like the big one that you got from Twitter.
Yeah, so that means there's a lot left to anticipate.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yes, there's a ton.
You're probably not even going to expect coming, which is really exciting.
Yes, I mean, I just want to get one thing out of the way real quick, because it's been mentioned in the past couple of episodes and like in our pre-recording talks and our post-recording discussions that you two have been anticipating the thought of Halibel coming to the story with how much like Cecilius has been present, and after we did the Rem stuff of like how much we got to know him, and I'm just sitting in the back with just this huge grin, just it'd be crazy if he showed up again, but it's probably gonna happen.
I had no clue up until the point in which I looked at the cover of this volume thing, and it was Julius and Anastasia and their kimonos and stuff like that, and I was like, God damn it! Like stuff like that happens, and I'm like, why do they put this front and center? This has happened till the very end of this book.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a shock. I was like, oh, maybe, and then when it happened, I was like, oh, I was so right.
Yeah,
it could have just been like a little short story of, hey, what's Anastasia up to, sort of thing, which it feels a lot less out of context or out of nowhere, having read the short stories that we did and knowing that Anastasia and Julius were planning to also come to Wallachia.
Yeah, because without that context, I imagine it'd be way more out of nowhere, right?
It was, because it had been, 2 years since I had finished Arc 6 by the time I read this chapter. And I had no idea of Julius and Anastasia showing up in Wallachia. It was the last thing on my mind. I knew that they all made it to Roswell's mansion, and that Emilia, Beatrice, Otto, and Garfield were planning to come and get everyone else. Roswell, Petra, and Ram were a surprise to me back in Arc 7 that they came, as well as Frederica. And then Julius and Anastasia and Halibel all arriving were complete out of left field, no idea what's happening. They're mentioning someone tall standing in the back, and I'm thinking, okay, who's resurrected? What crazy evil is here? Did Todd somehow already come back? But no, just Halibel being there all casual and admiring as he does.
Yeah.
I literally screamed.
I earlier, because I'd saved the second half of this phase for today just so it was fresh, and oh my god, I when I read and I realized it was Halibel, I literally screamed, "No fucking way!" I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised too. I mean, it takes like a while. Like, I think what kind of got in my brain is the thing that I kept on talking about earlier, which is I'm calling bullshit on Teppei's, like, I'm not gonna do anything about Gusteko. I'm not gonna do anything about Kararagi too much, because even in this very arc, he couldn't help himself from writing, in Kararagi, people with black eyes are the spirits, and then
in Gusteko, yeah,
Gusteko. Sorry, in Kararagi, what was it? Demi-humans born without hair are prejudiced and stuff like that. I'm like, he had to add this like world building lore thing, right? I was just like,
he just couldn't help himself.
He's thinking about it, and also obviously the comparison between Cecilius and Halibel, it had to come up eventually, and I knew it was going to. So this moment made a lot of sense.
It's a needed backup with the level of power that they are up against right now. If every living divine general couldn't stop the fall of Lupagana, then they're going to need whatever ounce of power they can muster to get back at this.
Yep.
Although Ceci seems to have found the final boss already.
Oh, that's his thing.
I was just like, what the fuck? What? This makes sense. I can see Ceci doing this, but already?
That makes a lot of sense for like where he would go straight to.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's like, I had a weird intuition about this.
Yeah.
I'm the main character. You're the final boss. This has to be like how this goes. And this is how I save the world.
Yeah, it gives a good anime moment of like, they fought for 30 days stalling each other so that plot can happen in the background, right? Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's going on right now, That's good. Well, it's good.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that Chisha's whole plan of I'm going to regress Cecilius so he doesn't get in the way has now made it so that it's not like a guaranteed 100% fault that he's just going to resolve the problem on his own right here.
Yeah.
Whereas adult him may have been able to just fix it on his own as soon as
just
this
fix
happened.
The whole plot itself just by being sassy.
Yeah, I think one thing that I kind of wanted to note about this is that like Halibel returning to this, as you said, evens the power level of the sort of setting that we have, the scenario that we have going on here. But it also brings to my mind that like Reinhardt, in lieu of Reinhardt not being able to come here because he would fix the problem immediately, instead we have Halibel here who is supposed to take his place as a very strong guy who doesn't fix the problem immediately, so plot can happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But then again, that comes into mind where Reinhardt would be. Obviously, he's not supposed to leave the country, but how much does that matter? But we'll think about it.
That's the thing to think about. I think the most interesting thing is very much it's feeling like a new age for the Empire. This calamity is coming. Things are about to fall apart, but like things are changing in really interesting directions that I was not expecting at all.
Well, yeah, it has an emperor when the emperor was planning not to be alive at this point.
And Vincent's plans have been fucked so hard, and it's really funny. He's the sort of character that, because of how like much he plans and prepares for things, it's very entertaining seeing his reaction of being like, I've done all of this work, I've planned all of this out, and everyone keeps fucking it up.
Couldn't have ever anticipated Subaru though.
Yeah,
no one can.
No one can, exactly. But with that, I think we should probably divide this into each kind of like half of this phase discussion-wise, just because they're so tonally different.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So let's get talking about Capital Adventures, boys.
Yes. Oh man. So the whole Todd adventure scene here, I remember reading through it and I was holding my breath every single action, every encounter that they had, any time that there was a situation where Todd could act, I was waiting for him to do it. And just the fear that even the reader has of how is he going to make this impossible again?
Yeah.
How is he going to cause untold amount of loops that Subaru has to resolve, only for Subaru to be prepped and ready for it was so satisfying.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
it was so cool.
I mean, let's start from around like the moment in which like they start meeting up with each other. I mean, very very interesting thing is that like how should I say, like we can talk about how like obviously they meet up. Tanza meets up with Rem fairly quickly, and Beatrice and everybody else meets up fairly quickly. And you know, I love the reunion between Beatrice and Subaru.
Oh my
we
god.
can't not highlight that. I mean, she's very cute in this.
It's so cute.
Very pouty. Also, something that I kind of like thought about, and this is just how my brain kind of works, that like Tanza is loyal to Subaru in the way in which that like somebody would like a figure that you aspire to, right?
Yeah.
And whereas Louis is sort of like his daughter, right?
Yes,
And then Beatrice is 100%. And this is something that I thought was very interesting for him to say, because I don't think he ever said something like this before. He's like, "You are my number one, my partner," right? Which is what Beatrice tells him to do. But like
yeah,
but I don't think he ever clearly said that he was going to do that. I think he's naturally started to like recognize that as the case currently. I mean,
I think it's very much a separate, like it's the separate idea from his potential romance with Emilia. It's become like a familial thing with Beatrice, right?
Well, it's also been one of the anchors that has kept him aware and not falling into like the same regressive mind state that Cecilius has. That his memory of his partnership with Beatrice was one of the things that helped him keep aware of his sense of self back on the Gladiator Island. Whereas his thought of Emilia became more of like an admiration and Rem was more of a mission, Beatrice was a core memory he was holding on to. Even if he did forget her name for like a chapter, her connection to him was something that wasn't revolving just around his age, because it is mystical. Like it is something that it goes beyond what he has with Rem or Emilia, because they have an actual contract together.
Literally spiritual.
Yeah, literally spiritual. Although her being jealous of Louis and Tanza and trying to hide it is so adorable.
Cute. I just, and some of the disputes that Tanza gets in with Beatrice in some of these chapters, it's just really entertaining, like dialogue and banter. Which is all really cute and wholesome, and then it's undercut by the tense, like watching, like when's Todd gonna do it? When's he gonna pull the axe out? You know, like it's just like, man, Tepeya's done such a good job of making this reunion feel satisfying and getting like these really wholesome character interaction moments in, but then also undercutting it with a fat slice of plot and tension.
Yeah, the tension's very good here. I think we see Subaru like they reunite with Rem, and also like very clearly Katja's there as well, because they were kind of tied up together, as well as Medium Flop, right?
Flop,
Flop, and the idea is that like they're trying to get out, and then they're like, hey, you know that Bursted's kept all of the people that look like you, all the kids that look like you, kind of trapped here. And then as they're freeing those kids, in comes Todd, and menacing moment, if ever there is one. Todd showing up. I think like what's very interesting before that I kind of want to mention is that this like thought that I think I forget who has that, maybe it was Subaru. He's like, Bursted's should know that Vincent's not the type to, you know, promiscuously sleep with women. So why would he presume that and capture all of these people unless there's something else going on in his head? And that's something. Well, it's interesting. I talk about that.
Because we've talked about in a lot of our Arc 7 discussion about how Bursted's plan is stupid, right?
It is.
That little bit of like actual like logical thinking about it really made me think, is that really his plan? Because Bursted's is not a stupid man, at least from what I see in terms of some of the interactions in this phase and some previous stuff. Like his actual like dialogue and maneuvering of stuff is incredibly smart.
He's at least competent enough as a job that Vincent kept him around after he was loyal to basically his number one nemesis back in the Imperial selection.
Yep.
And the thing that I kind of note about this is that his dogmatism supersedes any sort of logic to like, well, he's a good calculating planner, right? But at the same point, his motivations make no logical sense because they're tailored to this way of the empire as it's been established, as like he's supposed to be like the administrator that's like, this is the culture of the empire, we have to facilitate it by any means necessary. And that's even like immediately flipping on its head. There's no like emotion to it as soon as, Vincent comes back. He's like, oh yes, you're the emperor.
Oh, he's very much like the pragmatic conservative, but the pragmatic aspects kind of disappear when you come to the more like dogmatic ideology of the empire.
Yeah, I wonder if it's also, he might be sort of a mild critique at a lot of older Japanese officials who talk about how everyone needs to start having more kids, but isn't doing anything to make that situation more viable. And it could be, I don't want to get too deep into politics of a country I've never been to. I did recognize that comparison of his main thing is Vincent isn't doing what he's supposed to do by having a lot of kids. Japan's facing a similar problem. He's an old man, very clearly a take on the hyper-conservative old politician that is good at his job, but nobody likes what he thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Subaru represents a very interesting thing, which I think is the idea of what Teppei hopes the modern Japanese kid could aspire to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot of things. I mean, a lot of things that Subaru kind of struggles with in terms of his identity, and also like obviously his thing with like being a NEET, but like also the thing that we see in this arc, which is also very interesting, all these interesting social things that feel like taboo a bit, or like the way that he interacts with like people or women that feels, I would say like progressive in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's definitely like the modernist interpretation of like Subaru is trying to fix this world through the modern lens of like what Teppei hopes, kids in Japan could aspire, or like teens in Japan could aspire to be. Especially.
Yeah, even like a major conflict of this arc and the previous is Subaru's modern mindset when it comes to killing and war and violence, clashing with something that exists in this fantasy lifestyle that not only idolizes war and violence, but uses it in every instance of this entire nation.
Yes.
Whereas Subaru, and as we show later, a lot of the people that he is surrounding himself with are so vehemently opposed to that mindset and ideal that it's the main driving conflict between him and Vincent.
And it's such an engaging like not only plot conflict, but like in terms of theme. Like this is, in my opinion, the strongest theme Teppei has worked on in the series so far in terms of like conflict of ideas and ideology. He's done such a good job of setting up the Empire and the Kingdom as two distinct polities now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just done a great job of making me really invested in seeing the arguments from both sides. Because regardless of me disagreeing from a moral perspective on a lot of the Imperial stuff, I understand the logic, right? Like, it's a thing I can understand, but I don't have to subscribe.
It's the way I have interpreted and kind of like rationalized it within myself is Vincent is right and has been right almost every single time, but Subaru has had the moral high ground in every single argument that they've had. Well, so even though, like, if they listened to Vincent, it would almost guaranteed succeed just based on his own track record in history. But Subaru is showing the way that you, like, the goal that Vincent isn't even trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And that's what's missing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd mostly agree. I think, like, we'll talk about why Vincent's motivations are the way they are.
Yes.
And that'll help inform that conversation a bit more later down the line, in the second half. Yeah, but as we're talking about, like, there's this entire thing where he frees, like, Berstedt's prisoners. Mm-hmm. And they kind of are at a race for a clock, right? Todd shows up, and Todd's like, okay, Moguro can only, stop Belleroy and Messeria for so long, right? And in the meanwhile, zombies are trying to flood this place with this huge reservoir, right? This huge reservoir outside the lands trying to flood the city, right? And we have to defeat these zombies and get out of here before it's too late. And interesting thing to note about this, well, this doesn't really matter because it just gets talked about briefly during the later part of this, is that, like, the reservoir is created from Archaea's battle with Cecilius.
Yes. Yeah. Which is...
Well, it's overflowed from it.
Yes, it became huge because of this huge wildfire that took place in the northern province after she burned it down in a battle of Cecilius, a sparring match. I thought
the concept of the imperial city, like the northern part of it being just scorched out by a battle and a dispute between Archaea and Cecilius is just like, fuck, this is the Empire, I guess.
I mean, Cecilius has formed a huge amount of the landscape of the Empire in the modern day.
Yeah, I talked about that before. It's very interesting. Or like I've caught on those themes.
Yes,
yes. He's a force of nature, that's for sure. Quite literally. And obviously we'll talk about Archaea's own force of nature quite literally, even like emphasized quite literally later on in this part of this discussion. But we're getting to that point in which they're going to try to escape, and there is a member of the Cyclops tribe that is resurrected, who was one of the people rebelling against Vincent, who has this unwelling pit of hatred and this desire to murder. And that's all he's thinking about.
He's also a specific victim of Todd.
Yes.
Victim
is a good word.
Yeah. Honestly, but yeah, he in this state, he's kind of just rampaging, and Todd makes this is actually something very interesting to think about. Is Todd's assessment very quickly is that none of us here could ever hope to beat a first-class general. I don't even think we're capable of beating a second-class general, which he assumes is Cyclops tribe member, whose name is probably something you guys have written down that I've forgotten.
Ishmael,
yeah.
Yes, call me Ishmael. And yeah, like that is an interesting thing. What do you guys think about his assessment there? We have Beatrice in the party, we have Tanza in the party, and Todd's a very good judge of battle prowess, I would assume. And Subaru assumes that he's being honest because he's, flaunting it in front of Katja here. So do you think that it's like that's we've talked about power scaling in this past few arcs quite a bit, and this idea that a second class general is stronger than everybody there combined is something that I mean obviously Todd is devaluing himself here, but like what do you think about that?
Well, so a second class general, I think, is supposed to be, that's like the same level of power as Kafma Irelux, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I believe he is also a second class general.
Although specifically for Kafma, he could be one of the 9. He just doesn't want to.
He is like the upper echelon, but that's the level of power, like someone on Garfield or a little bit lower scale of ability.
Yeah.
So I don't think that, I mean, everyone else there, aside from Beatrice, I think Todd is 100% accurate.
Yes.
But he has no way of knowing just how powerful this girl is.
Yeah. Especially with her being rejuvenated and be able to throw out as much Minya and what level of Minya she wants to throw out.
she is also dangerously exhausted from stopping the magic stone blast at the end of Arc 7.
Right. Yeah, 100%. Well.
So if he's either underestimating her, like doesn't know, or is aware of just how little ability she has at the moment, I think he's probably right. But it's more just to show the mindset behind Todd versus Subaru, because like they come up against a monster, Subaru's instinct is let's find a way to deal with it without having to be more powerful than it. Whether that is I'm going to die 2,000 times in an arena until I figure it out, or it's we're going to blow it up with an explosion, which is what he did against the Guilty Low, failing, and it's really funny that he tries it again here and it works.
Yeah, that was such a cool callback. But it is very much the Natsuki Subaru way of dealing with things, which is when we get to see a bit more tension in this very temporary alliance between Todd and Subaru. Because at first, as they're dealing with straggler zombies, yin magic is very effective against them, right? Which makes a lot of sense because of how their bodies kind of function. With them literally being like porcelain almost. But
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, as you're saying, their bodies have become porcelain, and the zombies also regenerate. And to an extent, that's actually differing, which seems to be driven by either their hatred or there was a lot of like terms thrown around in speculation in like half English, half Japanese, which is just like either how much damage you deal with it increases the regeneration, or rather how much bloodlust there is. Obviously, they come with this idea that Minya, which is mana of stop time, is like an insta-kill spell in terms of like it freezes your body's time and kind of prevents it from coming back together, regenerating. the another thing they talked about was fire, right?
Yes.
Which makes a lot of sense. I mean, you can't really regenerate from ash. That's sort of like a common conception in fantasy stories like this, you know.
Useful
But also like magic. Yeah.
Useful
Physical
for Todd
attacks seem
too,
to not.
because he has that spirit under a conscription, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going to listen or you're going to get fed to Archaea.
Scare the spirit into a contract. Very, very
Very
nice.
Todd way of doing things.
So just while we're on this topic, if you're in this scenario, what is your solution to stopping these regenerating zombies? Because I thought I had come up with one that they could have been handling at the time, which was they have Rem there, who's supposed to be a somewhat proficient water magic user, and Beatrice, who could easily explain the concepts to her. If destroying them isn't working, then can you not just put them in like a block of ice and just have them stuck there?
Right. I think that's something that Emilia thinks about later on.
Yes, she does.
Yeah. This idea that, like, yeah, sure, freezing, like, incinerating them helps. But, freezing them also means that you can't really,
The issue becomes it's a temporary time stop in that.
Yeah. There's no such thing as ice that doesn't thaw.
Yeah, because as soon as, it's not like D&D with the focus of the spell, but as soon as like the actual spell itself will wear off, that will be a threat again, and you don't know how much Rem can do that and how reliable that's going to be. It's very much a thing of like, I think Subaru seems brash and like, oh yeah, let's take this thing down, but I think he's taking almost a cautious Subaru approach here by doing that, by being like, okay, we have to take this thing out just in case. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we kind of talk about here is that, Todd kind of criticizes in the middle of this where he's like, you have that look in your eye like you don't care if you're going to die. You know? And that's the brashness of it. And, it's something that Ishmael kind of thinks about, which is like, you are trying to feint me with this idea that you, what is it? Like, you don't care if you, oh yeah, that attack didn't work and you want me to be overconfident that the attack didn't work, right? So that was what he was betting the plan on. But what he was betting the plan on was that he could double bluff him, you know what I mean? Where it's like, you do that, you're foolish enough to think that I'm going to think that, you've created an opening for yourself, and then I'm going to attack you. Obviously, we realize that even just blowing up his heart, which was their initial assumption, that didn't kill him.
Yes.
The head was still around.
Pretty tough.
Yeah.
But specifically, this one in particular seems tough, and I think the explanation is it's like their level of will or for not exactly revenge, but to exist past death.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like
it's
very much like some zombies are more unique and more dangerous than others. Like there's levels of variability there, right?
Yeah. And something that I was talking about is the sacrament. It seems like very much so. I had this question, right, which is just like, sure, Felix is like scared of the sacrament and stuff like that, but like it does resurrect somebody, right? But we're getting the impression here that the sacrament really does bring out the worst in the person's soul, and only because like even Ishmael was like, why do I feel this way? I would never feel this way, right? He had this idea of like honor, like this sort of idea of like care for his opponents, but now he just wants to kill and eat and gnaw. Like it does feel very much like a zombie,
Yeah, because it's whatever Sphinx has done to bring all these people back to like the level that she has. It's calling it resurrection as kind of like that's flagged my D&D brain as being wrong. It's reanimated because they're back, they're active, and I've always kind of wondered here, like, is this actually them, or is it more of a like an imprint of their brain or their mind?
Yeah, it feels like that.
I know Gold would get this, but it very much feels to me like servants from Fate in a way, in where they're not exactly the person they were in life. They're like a copy or like a modified potential concept of that. And I think that this is more of like an extreme like twisting of that on this sort of like idea of these beings existing, because it like even it's just the way it's written from the narration of Ishmael's perspective. It's just so interesting. Like, very much like he makes mistakes that he wouldn't have made of in life, right? Like, part of the reason they're able to beat him here is because he uses his regenerative ability as a strength, despite being a smarter strategic fighter than that. Stuff like that. There's something wrong here, deeply. It's not just the wrongness of bringing the dead back from life as like a taboo thing, right? Like, there's more taboo to be had here.
Yeah, well, to me, it's not even just the taboo-ness of it. I've always, my consideration of this, and I don't know what you guys think, but like, we know that when somebody dies, their memories, their soul, everything gets stored in the library, in the watchtower, but also returns their mana, right? Returns to the world and gets cycled out. We think about this with blessings and stuff like that. Their soul data kind of returns to life stream, if you will, right? Like, and the idea of bringing that back, like, it's not going to be a clean, like, no matter how strong of a wizard you are, just doing regular magic, authority I could understand, but if it's just regular magic, I don't think you could affect the world, like the rules of a soul, the world, that precisely, because Echidna couldn't even do it, right? She even stopped herself.
Well, at least Beatrice is under the impression that Echidna was unable to accomplish that.
Well, in the way that it's affected, like, she must have forgone it, because if she could have done it back in the day, she would have, right?
Well, she would have needed Roswald to do it for her, because she would be dead at that point of needing to accomplish it.
True. And it also takes a willing host. So, like, we presume here that, like, for example, or not a willing host, but like different person's soul, we presume that this transcription of the soul doesn't occur in the mortal sacrament,
Yeah. And it's also a thing of, I wonder if Echidna did test it a little and realized that it wasn't fully the person that was being animated, and so it would be disqualified as a potential resurrection for her, right?
Or even that it just has really bad side effects upon being brought back.
Yeah.
Or that it might even just be that you have to be under control of the caster. Because, like, the people here are acting on Sphinx's will. They're not just running around and continuing what they were doing.
It very much gets the impression to me as well that it would be a thing of, like, could her authority transfer over? Because I don't know how that would work, right? Like, yeah, I think there's a myriad of reasons why Echidna wouldn't have pursued this.
Well, we know where the authority of Grid was and now is. Like the Witch Factory. The idea that, like, I think that, like, I was going to say, Sphinx's, like, plan here, control over these bodies and stuff like that. I do wonder how, because, like, you're right, they are kind of acting on our orders, but, like, there is something in their souls that is their personality. You know what I mean? We get that. So yeah, it is interesting. I'd have to think about it some more. And it's probably why Echidna didn't use it, because it feels like a facsimile, as you were saying, Wolf. It feels that way.
Yeah, it almost feels to me like it's like a snapshot of them before they died, without the filtering the world does to the soul to bring it back into the world itself after death. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that isn't right, because, like, even Emilia can feel as she's, like, running about
as a spirit arts user,
as a spirit arts user, that it's done in defiance of the natural order.
Yeah, this is not something that's normal nor natural.
So there's definitely some weirdness going on, but regardless, it has led to a situation of an undying, increasingly animalistic beast, murderous Ishmael coming after them.
We get a bit of worry and tension because they start to get a bit on the back foot in the fight, because he starts to grow, like, tentacles instead of limbs, because it's almost like he's, like, glitching or malfunctioning because of how much he's regenerating in this fight. And we then get an interesting moment that kind of brought back a bit of awareness to me of the situation of Subaru's fear towards Todd in this entire scenario is feedbacking onto Tanza through Corleonis.
Right. That was a good detail that I forgot about. It was nice to bring that up, because as we get a lot of times in this phase, a very interesting concept that Teppei keeps on bringing back in the narration or in Subaru's mind which is that there is no such thing as a power without drawbacks, right? Even like thinking about the idea that when Sphinx dies, hopefully this should end, right? If it works in that process. And he thinks about that with Corleones. He thinks about it with he thinks about somebody else's power later on. I forget whose.
I don't think he does, but when we get perspective from Yorna, she imagines the consequence of like her power.
Yes, you're right.
The way that it works around it.
So that theme keeps on coming back up in this phase is what I was trying to say, yeah. But yeah, that's where it got mentioned.
And yeah, it kind of has this tense scenario. They finally manage they think they kill this thing, and then it starts to pursue even more. And so they make a decision. Okay, we're gonna get all of the non-combatants and other people out of here and lure them out through the. They're gonna take their own path, and Todd and Subaru are gonna lure this monster away, right? And we then get one of the coolest callbacks to a moment that I've seen in the series so far. Topage does a very good job of self-referencing previous stuff that's happened, but having the flower dust explosion as a form of taking out this big enemy and it working this time is really fun.
It is. If you two didn't know, or anyone else at home didn't know, Subaru's main voice actor is also the main voice of a character called Senku from a show called Dr. Stone.
Yes.
Where stuff like a dust explosion and science like that, super common, super well explained. And I have always thought that him having Subaru try it and fail in Arc 4 was almost referencing the knowledge that the actors were the same and that it is the same person there.
Yeah, that is quite fun of an idea.
That is funny. Yeah, I never thought about that. Maybe. I mean, he loves doing fun references like that. But yeah, Dustsplosion to Dustsplosion Boogaloo. Yeah.
It was super effective. And he also taught Todd that that's a thing. Anyone else have a problem with Todd knowing that?
Well, if that was going to be a problem.
Yeah,
going forward.
We'll see. Yeah.
But like, honestly, one of the things is that like in this explosion, this inferno, this huge explosion, I mean, everybody else is kind of incapacitated in this moment. They just have, Todd gets injured by the explosion just a little bit. And, of course, Subaru now is in this position of supplication where he's like, you're injured.
Mm-hmm.
I'll help you. And there's this like interesting moment, and we can talk about this like bit by bit. I don't want to rush to the conclusion, but it's like, Subaru ends up, let's see if I can think of any quotes that I wrote down or anything like that. Yeah. So like, there's this very interesting moment in which, Subaru has this thought of like, this is Todd. In this moment, he is injured. Like, it's not even the thing that he wants to leave him there, because he's like, I'll try to save him just because I try to save everybody, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like, there's a moment where he thinks about it. He's like, well, at least now it feels like now that I'm going to help him, maybe even Todd, like this, like
he hadn't done anything wrong. Yeah.
His thoughts prefacing this is like, Todd did all these horrible things, but in Subaru's life, there's been plenty of people who've done horrible things to him. Like Roswell, like, even like
Rem, who's with him. Yeah, she tortured him for hours.
Yeah, it's like it happens quite often where like he has characters that have hurt him or whatever. Garfield, like there's these moments, and he's like, I can sort of see the humanity here in this scenario where you work together. There's something that he can trust in, right? Which is just like this idea that he. Even in this, I think Todd says something with Katya where he's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, that's something that I can grab onto as Todd has motivation and beyond just killing me.
That's his humanity, right?
Yeah.
It's somebody else that he's wanting to fight for instead of just preserving himself.
And that's how Subaru could try as hard as he can to relate to Todd in any way.
For about 2 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah, and then Todd immediately tries to attack him as soon as his back is turned.
Mm-hmm.
And then, instinctually, because he had a slight inclination of this happening, Invisible Providence comes and snatches the axe away from him. And this moment of him, screaming, why? This is one of the... I would say this is one of the hugest portrayals of Subaru's, in a way, like, because not just that he trusted Todd, it's that this was his entire... everything that he's been up to this point, there's at least that internal logic that he could understand, but he can't understand this. Like, no matter how much he tries to, he's like, why would you do this? And Todd offers a very interesting idea, and it's not clear what it's meant now. I think we'll come back to the exact meaning that kind of parallels with Vincent's thinking later, right? Which tells you about the Empire and stuff like that. But like, to me, I don't know about you guys, I think Todd's thought is that like Subaru thinks that I'm thinking about how to kill him even now. That means that if he's thinking about that, then that means Subaru must be thinking the exact same thing about me. You know,
Right,
this like, I can never trust you because you don't trust me. Even now, even as I'm supplicating, you're still suspicious. Even that one hint of suspicion is bewildering to him, right?
Well,
we get more to why it's bewildering to him later, but yeah.
Todd's whole thing here is a level of projection that would astound even like a modern psychologist. Of the thought of if I were in your scenario, like if everything else the exact same and I was where you are, this would be the chance I would take to kill the other person. And so because that's true, I have to take this chance now to stop you from doing it. It's not even that he obviously was getting weirded out by Subaru being ready to RBD at any point, which he's always picked up on. But in this case, he's so ready for any level of betrayal or the need to kill that he assumes everyone else is too.
I mean,
because it's just the way that he is.
He literally preaches to him, we can't understand each other. We're polar opposites. I'm someone who is forever suspicious of others, and you're someone who always believes in others. There's no way that's compatible.
They are so close to being similar.
Yeah.
Just this one factor that makes them absolute polar opposites.
It's just as Roswell said, you know, I always am thinking about the weakness of people. You're thinking about their strengths.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
In a way, it's the same sort of ideological clash, right? Where it's just like Todd always believes that people are untrustworthy, that they're always going to do everything outside of their best interest because that's how he operates his life, right? So, like, even in slight kindnesses, like the slightest discrepancies is what always sets Todd's alarm, because Subaru and, you know, we see Vincent thinking that it's the idea of fate later, but like Subaru is always oscillating wildly between I can live, I need to value everyone's life, and my life isn't that valuable, you know? And that sort of selflessness astounds somebody like Todd, who can't even grasp it.
As it's described later, this distortion of who Subaru is and like what he could be is something that to a person like Todd is not only confusing and impossible to understand, but through that is something Todd fears, because Todd lives through a life of understanding and knowing, right? And being able to outsmart everything. And it becomes a thing of when you have that element of unknown, like any good horror monster that you write about, that's primal fear. Todd is terrified of Subaru because of it. And this is the first time Subaru, like, I think, sees it physically in Todd's eyes, it's mentioned in this chapter with their confrontation.
Of just how afraid of him that he is.
Yeah, exactly. So all of these hateful things that he's telling Subaru, it almost rings, I think, a bit of deaf ear a bit on Subaru in that moment, because not only the shock of the situation, just how tense it is, but also just like, wow, like no matter what ideology this man spouts, this isn't empty, man, right? I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, because like there's a whole point of Todd being confused about Subaru acting to save Katya. And like how Subaru is deciding who lives and who dies almost on a whim. Whereas Todd's mindset is the only ones that I care about them surviving are myself and Katya. Nobody else matters. So he doesn't have to make that decision. Everyone else is effectively already dead to him. Whereas Subaru is the complete opposite of that.
And so when we get this scenario where Subaru's almost demanding that, you know, Todd beg for forgiveness because this is like insane, Todd refuses. This chapter is literally called won't beg for forgiveness. He won't beg for forgiveness because in Todd's mind he's never done anything wrong.
Yeah, and as you said before, like this sort of you know, like this idea of Subaru looking at Todd and being able to think for a moment, he's thinking about how to kill me, but also I should probably save his life. that flipping on a dime in Subaru's head sends so much alarm bells off in Todd's head, because he's thinking like, this person hasn't made up his mind about me after all this time. What is he? What does he know that I don't? What is it that he's like? What does he have over me that I don't understand? And it's a threat. Yeah.
It's a mindset that no one could even come close to grasping until we really get to see like who Todd is and what he's had to deal with later on in the phase. But until then, we just get like the most tame, low power fight in this city of monsters killing each other,
and it's so tense. And I think Tapei does a really good job of writing the visuals of a scene out like this, especially like if this was to be animated, this would be insane, right? Like with the sound effects and the music, just this Todd pressing down on child Subaru with his axe and slowly pushing it closer and closer to his neck just to kill him, and Subaru having to struggle with unseen hand to the point of him using it so much, like he's starting to get the black gunk from the authority overuse out of his body again. And it's this really intense, like pure fight for survival between the two. And it speaks so well to how good they conflict with each other, right?
Yeah. The scene reminds me of, and you guys have played, PlayStation games or whatever, right? This is definitely a button mash moment where like
God of War
feels like where you're like pressing the button and you're like in a cutscene or whatever. That's what this feels like the entire time in terms of like the way that they're fighting. It's just like, and now I'm gonna try to slice you, and now you're gonna try to slice me, and we're all both exhausted and whatnot. But then it gets revealed that Todd was lying. He wasn't actually exhausted in the way that he said he was. And this entire time, he's been holding something even closer to his chest. It's one of those things where the narration, I think, even says it. It's like there's a strength inside of Todd that he reveals now as his wound regenerates, as Subaru flips the axe back on Todd and cuts him down almost to his heart. It regenerates instantly as he shifts into a werewolf, just as Todd claims that he is. It's interesting to think of his strength, right? And it's so perfect thematically too, for a reason that is not like traditional werewolf, but to me it makes so much sense. It's this idea that like he has something, a beast literally underneath his skin.
Yes.
He presents like a normal person just like anybody else, but in reality he is the monster. He is that strong. He is that vicious and ferocious.
Well, I don't even know if it's that he's that strong. It's just that this is more of a manifestation of the predator that he has become. So while others that we even meet this phase are able to embrace this side of them fully and not let it really define to enable their cruelty, Todd has used this as only a source of pain and only brings it out when he is in his most vicious and sadistic place.
Yeah, I think Tapei is being very literal with his metaphor of wolf in sheep's clothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of this guy is literally a wolf in sheep's clothing. He is a predator. There is no man, Todd Fang. There's only the animal, the survivor, the one that hunts. And there was some really interesting discussion we could talk about with like how Todd has refused to give any information to Subaru so far in any of their confrontations, right? And it feels very thematically important that he starts to reveal some information about himself here, because the way he's viewing Subaru is different to how he's been viewing him up to now. Like, obviously, he still has that same fear, but I think he's regarding it more and more as in the paranoid way that he does of like, this thing is out to get me. I'm going to tell you about how I'm going to rip you apart, about how I'm this monster that's going to fucking end you, right?
But also, I think it's not just that, but I think Subaru also sees him for what he really is.
Mm-hmm.
I think Todd, for like a glimpse, sort of respects that in his own warped way. He's like, okay, I'll show you you're right. This is who I am. All pretenses can be gone. We can look at each other truly now, right?
It's also that Subaru noticed before he revealed it himself.
Yes.
And like he's only willing to show it because Subaru's already uncovered that to him. Similar to back in Guarl, where he didn't show himself until Subaru called him out that he knew he was there.
Exactly.
So until it comes about that Subaru's able to pick up on it, it's still something that he's willing to keep to his chest, even to the point of him dying.
But also, I think one of the things that's very interesting is that he also does this. I think it's his crucial flaw here, actually, as we'll talk about in a second, is that he does this to justify himself.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes,
a lot of times he does like stuff that feels very much so like pragmatic and cold and calculated. This time, Subaru's cut so deep to the core of his being, he's so afraid that he feels the need to fend for his ego. As we'll get to later with what Archaea says, as the beast Todd, there is still the pride inside of him of being the hunter.
Yes.
Like he needs to affirm that he is strong and that he is capable of overcoming any threat. Even though he's still afraid in this moment, he wants to justify himself. And we'll get to why he wants to justify himself, because he says that not to strike fear, but also to have...
It's like an excuse.
Yes.
To have Subaru pity him or like understand something about the way that he's lived his life. And it's the pretense that we now get as we go into the backstories about the werewolves that we think that, I think, and we all kind of probably will agree, is that this is how Todd has justified his way of living.
Exactly.
His way of thinking. It's all been from this genesis of prejudice that his people have been under for a very long time, ever since the day of the Emperor's lover being slaughtered at the hands of a mole and a mole person and a werewolf.
Well, it wasn't at the hands of a werewolf. It was at the hands of the mole people and the wolf people.
Yeah.
Werewolf in this sense is describing the same kind of person that Garfield is, if you would call him a were-tiger.
Half.
Where they are human presenting is, I think, the way to describe it. Exactly. Where you get someone like Halibel who is just a wolf man.
Yes. You're 100% right, because I didn't catch on that, but yes. The beast, like the translation thing sometimes, like beastkin or But yes, he is a werewolf, and his lineage, as is described in this backstory blurb, most werewolves or wolf people consider themselves dog people, even if they're wolf people, because they're so looked down upon for this heinous crime that's been sort of, kind of put onto their people.
Because if wolf people are found even outside of Wallachia, they're deported back to Wallachia, where they're summarily executed and hunted. Like it's a sport.
Like we saw that the mole people were wanting to kidnap these nobles to try and get an audience with Emilia on their way in.
Exactly. And mole people have, kind of hidden underground, but like wolf people are kind of more so, they're out of luck in the way that they live. Mole people can hide pretty easily, but wolf people are prideful creatures by nature.
That's why aside from Halibel and probably Ricardo, the only wolf people that are shown here as Todd and probably like his family as it goes back are the ones who aren't like a full wolf person. That they are werewolves because they have that beast transformation available to them, but it's not what makes them. It's not outwardly apparent, even though his name is kind of on the nose.
It's on the nose of that, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's very much, I think, the really interesting source of discussion here, which I want to talk about with you guys, because this is like some deep theme stuff, which is, I really like that this is even though obviously it's a sham of an excuse for the person that he is, I love that Tapei has set Todd up to be this sort of person. He's gone through that prejudice. He's gone through, like, he's struggled and survived to the top. And it's like an opposite of Garfield to me, in which it's a showing of how being treated differently by society, that's the most negative extreme of how it can end up, right?
Well, it's more counter to Emilia than Garfield.
Yes.
Of like the way that they've reacted to prejudice. Whereas Emilia's chosen to rise above it. But Todd, in the most perverted way, represents both aspects of the Sword Wolf of Wallachia.
Yes.
Whether it's this monstrous fighter that's like the dangerous hunter and this combat expert, someone who we've talked about in the past, more than anyone embodies the spirit of the Wallachian way, but is also the biggest victim to the point where they are showing his kin getting stabbed on the flag.
Yeah, exactly.
And instead of being angry at that system and doing what he wants to or needs to do to change it, he has used it as a shield to hide behind and try and become part of, because who he really is or who he could have been would have been persecuted here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you go ahead, Gold.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it's built on a very selfish foundation, as you're talking about. He had the opportunity to, as we've seen in many people in this story thus far, rise above their circumstances and even aspire to that, right?
Yeah.
My idea is that, we've seen Todd, he doesn't even try. Like, there's not even an inkling, and even in Subaru's good grace that he's shown him, or even his most charitable interpretation of Todd's actions beforehand, is that Todd doesn't even really care for these things. As you said, he represents both sides of, the bad parts of the Empire. And even like he would go willingly into the army, live inside of it, not even think about things like, I'm enacting prejudice against the Shudrak that were happening upon my people.
He genocided them in one of the routes.
Yes, exactly. It's all just posturing. Like this sort of, idea, this, I don't like to throw around the term victim complex, but this
it's
taking to the truth of the matter of Todd's existence is that he has lived under this victim mentality his entire life. And it has borne out to this very moment.
And I think a really interesting aspect is that I think Tepei is also maybe, we won't get too much into the political stuff with this, but I think Tepei is trying to make statements on not like very loudly, but through a lot of the subtext of in the real world, a lot of the time, when there are scenarios like this of deep oppression and deep hatred, it kind of just cycles back. And it leads to worse outcomes over and over again, right? Because Todd is the perfect example of everything that can go wrong in a system like this. But using that system to rise to the top. Not in spite of it, but with it, right? And
exactly.
It's just really... It's tragic, but not in the way that makes me feel sympathy for Todd, in the way that it's like, damn, like, this is a really, at the core, Wallachia, there's something wrong. There's something needs to...
It's not, he's not sympathetic, he's pitiful.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Because, like, he has such a hatred, or he's so indoctrinated into this mindset that he hates his own
mother, ancestry,
and mom and dad about it, to the degree that he is accusing his mom of sleeping with their literal pet dog to create
dog in
him.
The backyard. Yeah,
he's someone that has found so much hatred in everything else in the world that, as a result, it's all he can see anywhere else. And if he doesn't have 100% control of the situation, hence why the only person that he is with is someone that has to rely on him 100%.
Exactly.
He refuses it and takes any chance he can to eliminate it, to the point where he doesn't even bother remembering the faces of the people he fought with. He forgets Todd's face, or Jamal's face, the moment he's away from him for 5 minutes.
Yeah, he does not allow responsibility to the point in which he will ignore, his sort of like the responsibility, even just killing somebody, on the battlefield. Like that sort of character, that flaw inside of him, is so ingrained into his very being.
And it's that also like the wolf pack mentality. Katya is part of my pack. No one else is. Me against the world. The world has always been the one that has hurt me and has given me nothing but a bloodline scorned with hatred and a country that, if they knew the truth of me, would have me killed immediately. Right?
And thus, again, the only person that he's with is someone who can't do anything about it either.
But this is where it gets really interesting. Todd turns this into, see, this is why you want to kill me, isn't it? Because I'm this monster, because I'm this werewolf, right? He tells Subaru, and he believes this, and this is terrifying, that clearly Subaru must have known all along what he was, right? That's why Subaru's after him. He's a werewolf. That can be the only reason why this threat, this thing outside of my comprehension is trying to kill me. Subaru gets, and this is one of my, I think, favorite angry emotional moments from Subaru in the series, where he's just like, what? What the fuck do you mean? I don't give a shit who you are. I give a shit what you do. Right? And it's so good. It's Subaru literally is just like, I do not care for your fucking blood. I don't care how much you deny it. Like, you are a terrible, evil person. It's just straight up true, isn't it? Like, he's fucked. And it's great to see Todd's, like, selfish, immature, genuinely, just evil ideology almost be thrown back in his face and be refuted for what it is, really, right? Which is just self-justification.
It's also it's a self-fulfilling prophecy with this as well.
Yes, exactly.
That he's lashing out at everyone because they would hate him, but people hate him because of what he does to them.
Yes.
And so he's ascribing these thoughts of why Subaru must have done things and what he's done to him already, and kind of seeing the different things that he's imagined Subaru probably thinks or probably does, which is not too different from Subaru seeing Todd and knowing all the terrible things that he had done in other times and could have done had things gone differently, knowing because of Return by Death. That they are both not just seeing the person in front of them, but seeing this alternative what-if versions that they both despise as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Subaru, trying his best, doesn't want that to happen. And doesn't want to be forced to see Todd that way. He doesn't want to give in to Todd's ideology.
He literally says, I refuse to kill you. Now, me and Gold have talked a lot about how we feel like these two arcs is going to lead into Subaru having to make the decision to kill Todd, right?
Right.
And stating that so loudly with Subaru's character right now really enforces that I think that's going to be a thing that happens. I could be wrong. Like, obviously, there could be other directions this could go, but I truly do believe that that's going to be a big emotional, like, and thematic.
Okay, so I feel kind of bad doing this, but the explanation that he's giving to Jamal and Katya later is supposed to be understood by the reader as well, that Todd got himself killed by attacking Subaru there. That he got swept up by the storm, and he's not a powerful enough person to withstand that.
Oh, so he is, like, permanently gone?
Yes. Like, okay. This is their final confrontation.
Okay.
Well, you know, I do understand that in a sense, but it's also like, you know, like, I think it has to happen eventually, am I right?
I'm thinking
their fight is like Subaru's whole thing here in the end of their kind of journey against each other is Subaru has refused and has determined not to give in to what Todd believes, because in a similar vein to like a Batman and Joker thing, if Subaru ever gives in, he just proves Todd right the whole time.
Yeah, he proves Todd's point.
Well, yeah, we all know. I mean, I've always had mixed thoughts about thematics like that. You know, I mean, this idea of like, it's not even a cliche, but it's a heroic sort of thing. Well, we don't want our good guy to kill because then he is always bad. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, we'll get to it later in the arc when he's talking to Vincent. I think like one thing I will say about it though is that like it makes a lot of sense in a way in which I believe that the idea of like, as soon as Katya was saying like, there's no way he could die, that guy he doesn't die that easily. He's, you know, he's too crafty, he's too smart. We didn't see him die, right? Like all those are things as Teppei's like winking at the reader as if through the eyes of somebody like Katya who is sort of a surrogate to the audience being savvy enough to think like, okay, but we haven't seen his body, right? But the purpose is, I guess, what Tepe's trying to tell us is that he lived this life where he thought himself insignificant, and in that same way to somebody like Emilia and Rem, who kick him into the waterway, right? This idea was just like, it was a matter of, so it's the same thing of like what Emilia says to Regulus, which is just like, and who were you? You know, like that sort of
you don't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Now, this makes a lot more sense to me with the context of his named chapter being the way it is, which just for context is the funniest thing Tepe has ever done.
It is probably one of the best. It's probably one of the best written. I mean, like, it is forming content perfectly, but like just the idea of like, I don't know, like idea of a character being established and built up so much. If you say that he's actually dead, even though that might be foolish, but you wouldn't say something so definitively unless it was true.
What Katja's whole point of like, oh, like he always comes back, you can't deal with him. That's her indoctrination of him, of like this perspective of a person that even like Subaru sees of him.
Yeah.
That they see him as this like unstoppable, unbeatable monster. But the moment he's up against anyone with even the slightest bit of actual ability, which is Emilia and to an extent Rem, like Rem, if she's not injured, clears Todd 10 times out of 10. It's not even a close fight.
True.
She fought off dozens of witch cultists at the same time. This Todd is not a threat to her.
It's as I kind of said before, like his moment of justifying himself was his biggest weakness, because Todd's strength, that what I was trying to say before, is that Todd's strength isn't necessarily like physical strength, like comparatively, right?
Yeah.
It's this idea that his ability and instincts as a fighter is at the level of, you know, some of the best in the series, right? Like, you'd agree with that?
Well, I don't know if it's that his instinct as a fighter. I would say his instinct as a killer. Sure.
Yeah, sure, killer, yeah.
As a murderer.
Because he wants to know the best way to take someone out. So he's not going to like stand across from his opponent the way that Garfield does and say,
right, that's
Todd Fang, third-class private of the Wallachian military, like battle his opponent in like total skill and ability. He's going to be the one that like shoots them in the back of the head with a crossbow when they aren't looking.
Yeah, exactly. I also think it's very clever. But yeah, I was saying, like, as soon as he struck a blow to justify himself, right, it gave, you know, like the name chapter, it made a lot of sense to me, because he has this huge, grandiose, selfish viewpoint of his life, right? And it's always been around surviving the best he can. But as soon as ego was challenged, that is when he truly lost. You know, as soon as he, you know, transformed into this monstrous thing and went against his nature, which is usually to run away in moments like that, like Subaru said, right? Like, I wonder if he's going to turn, like, as soon as I'm attacking Ishmael, right? As soon as I'm attacking Ishmael, he's probably going to run unless I give him a good justification not to, right? So like that like moment where he doesn't run, squares up against Subaru, is the moment where his hubris has gotten the best of him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now this makes a lot more sense in the sense of, especially when we were talking about self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And is Todd being an example of an empty person because of his hatred and because of how he sees the world. It then makes sense that this name chapter we have of him is literally a troll. It's literally, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Because Todd Fang isn't a man. There's nothing to Todd.
It's what the author is trying to tell you. It's like, don't go looking for more deepness in his character. His character is done. I've told you everything you need to know about. This is who he was.
Yeah.
And this is who he thought he himself was.
There's no context that's going to change the way that you see Todd being given here.
Because he's not going to reflect on himself.
No.
So we don't need to reflect on him as like a reader.
I think this could also be Tepe stating a bit like the people that are like Todd in real life. This is the kind of people they are too, right? These empty people that when they fight in this way of like survive and then they die, there's nothing more to them. It's just, I have no intention of telling you anything more than that, man.
There's I forget, like, but there's a show I watched recently, Secession, right? There's like a quote that kind of goes something like, you know, everything that you do in your life, no matter what you think it is, at a certain point, if you like people will see you a certain way, and your first and last thing on your gravestone in their minds will be that thing, you know. And that's Todd. Todd lived that life not thinking about what was going to be the first and last thing on his gravestone, you know. All he cared about was himself. He didn't care about his legacy. He didn't care about anything. He just wanted to. He didn't care about other people's perception of him. All he cared about was, you know, himself.
And getting to run away with Katya, which was his main motivation throughout most of Arc 7.
Which is, again, also a selfish motivation, not in her interest at all.
No, because like he's not wanting to like let her still be with her brother or like empower her in any way. It's a very controlling and manipulative arrangement where clearly Katya does have genuinely strong feelings for him.
As does Jamal, which is even more fucked.
Yeah, I mean, Jamal is a normal person in this circumstance.
Exactly.
But he's still a fucking killer, don't get me wrong. But he's a soldier.
I would say he's a soldier. This fight. Yeah. Todd is beyond the idea we said before, like, initially of the soldier. Todd is a killer, I think, is the separation there, right?
And in Arc 7, we talk about Jamal even says that he doesn't care about anything about being a soldier. But dying in battle, you know, he kind of told the difference between him and Todd in that moment where he was caring about, like, well, at least he died like a honorable Valachian soldier, even though he would never consider himself a soldier, right? The thing is that we see his instincts as a killer is something that, you know, gets lost because he's been so murderous against Subaru for so long.
Yeah.
But his other quality is his ability to, almost in the same mentality as a killer, get people to think of him as a normal person. You know, and I think that's what he did with Katya and Jamal for a long time.
Yeah.
In which he was like, wow, this guy is really friendly, he's really loyal, he's really caring, he's really charismatic, right? Because when we met him in Arc 7, Phase 1, he gives this very charismatic and goofy and jovial demeanor to Subaru.
Yeah, but it's also something that doesn't work on everyone, because while Subaru was fooled by it, in that first loop, Rem was put off by him so much to the point that it's like 2 days in before she points out to Subaru that he never even told us his name. It's just the red-haired soldier still.
It doesn't even call you by name either. He never says your name. He never does. And
which kudos to Rip. Like I still just want to kind of praise her writing more in this phase as well. Her fucking just, what did you do this time? Like, you really got yourself turned into a kid as well. Just this utter disappointment in his ability to come and rescue her.
Yeah,
it just sent me. It was so funny.
It's so funny. But
I will say the character writing recently especially. I mean, we've been talking about this a lot. It's just so good right now.
It is so good.
Like the way that the characters talk just feels so unique and funny and quick and quippy.
Yeah.
Like it's great.
Tapei is getting so good with his dialogue and his character interactions and the way characters are playing off each other. He's doing a really good job. And yeah, I guess that was Todd Fang, an empty man, gone and drowned. And
that's all I'm going to tell you, man.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to tell you, man. And
that's all there is to say.
Yeah. Tapei's making a statement with that, and I don't think he's wrong. So, I guess we can.
Well, just to kind of cap it off, Tapei, just well done. Way to make like the most interesting antagonist in this entire series. Even though he did have this like wolf transformation at the end, it's kind of matched with Subaru's like hand authority and situation that they've got, as well as his Corleones that's still going off. But like, it is just a guy at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and it is the most intimidating, terrifying presence. Just well done. I love this character so much.
I feel like that even as we were talking about how you remember someone after they die having the importance of how they lived their life with what you were saying before, Gold, right? The element of, you know, if Jamal was actually to have died as it was thought he would have in that battle of the Shadrakians would have thought of him as I remember that man that, you know, I killed who died fighting the honorable Valachian way. How are the people that who's going to remember Todd? What are they going to remember him for? You know, like,
yeah. Now that you know, as Subaru kind of explained,
Todd, the legacy that Todd is going to have on the rest of the story is the shadow of just pure like human evil, and he's not a person. It's the concept, right? It's like the boogeyman.
Well, it's also just going to lay a thought in Subaru's mind of, even if I do everything right, there are some people who I'm not going to be able to help and to convince to like change their ways or to help me or to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that's going to stick with him. Like in the end, even though he wasn't the one that actually did kill Todd, he failed to save him, which has been like a theme of Arc 7, which Arc 8 is just a continuation of Subaru not being able to save everybody. That there's always this consequence that he has to do.
It's the lesson of you can't save everyone, so what are you going to do in spite of that?
Yeah, it's really good. I really appreciate it, and it's also one of the things. And I don't know. Do you all agree? It's one of those things where I'm surprised, and I'm actually glad coming into chapter because I thought it was going to be, as I was saying earlier, overstaying your welcome. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Todd wasn't a character that overstays welcome, and it's also like a unique thing that hasn't really happened too much with Tepe, where it's like he's established a character. He established the character has deep mysteries that we're all going to unravel. He decided now is the time to pull off the Band-Aid with Todd completely, and even said, okay, his character is done now. And it's just like that. And he rarely does that. The only time he's done that with a few Sin Archbishops, where he's like, okay, they're done now, you know?
Well, Todd stops being a threat now that Subaru isn't alone anymore. So there's no more purpose that he can have in the story. Because there's no conceivable way that once he's back with everybody, that they would ever let him go off on his own like that again.
Yeah.
He's going to be with Emilia, Rem.
Regardless of Subaru's level of charitability, the rest of the Emilia camp, especially Otto, would not let Todd anywhere near him. Like,
no, Otto and Petra had to fight for their lives against this guy. They would have him.
I would have a feeling Otto and Petra would be like, we don't like killing people, but we're just going to get a knife and we're going to stab him, and Subaru's never going to remember him.
Otto would have Garfield deal with the problem, whichever way Garfield feels would work the best, and that would be the end of it. Because that's why I think Todd works so well here at the start, because even as like is shown in the chapter, there's all this utter unbelievable world-ending galactic scale chaos going on around him, and their fight is just a 12-year-old fighting a wolf man in the middle of a burned down barn. And like if you try to extend that any further, there's just no good place to do it, because they've already got Katya here. So any other connection that Todd has that they would have to go for to lead to that confrontation would be over.
Yeah. So yeah, I honestly, very fulfilling wrap up for Todd's character. I think Tepe did a very good job with just wrapping that up with a bow for one of the first times he's ever really done it for a character. Yeah. It's be like, yep, that's all this guy was, and that was the point. I'm very impressed with Tepe. I was worried he wasn't going to be able to do that. So, yeah, that's really satisfying.
Oh, it definitely feels like an invention that he had when he decided to extend Arc 7 more for what he's doing with this kind of character. Because if it was just what we got in like the first two phases before they like retook the city, where Todd was just a example of the Valachian soldiers that Subaru has to deal with before escaping out, like really before he planned to let 7 and 8 go as long and as much as in depth as they did.
Yeah.
Like I can imagine Todd and Jamal are just examples of Valachia's soldiers that Subaru just wouldn't get along with. But what he's pulled off with him, chef's kiss, super impressed. I love this character so much. Yeah. He's the best antagonist that we've seen so far.
Best antagonist of the story so far, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how Tepe is going to top that. Do you know what I mean? That's how good Tom was as an antagonist for this arc.
Do you think that Tepe considers drowning to be the most pitiful way somebody could die? Because it's happened twice now to some of the worst characters. So.
Yeah,
well, Subaru drowned like 30 times off screen in Arc 7 too.
Oh, right. Yeah. But we didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree with that line of thinking. I think it's also like one of the worst ways to die that I could conceive. So, yeah.
It ain't great. It is one of the most painful ways that you can go out.
And it's not even just the pain that I'm thinking of, it's the terror in your head of struggling to survive while you're drowning. We won't get too much into it, but it's terrifying to think of.
Yeah. Let's think about this, though.
Yes!
How did Emilia get here? Okay. Well, she managed to break free from fighting Mesoria. She headed over, And I just want to give you some Emilia quotes to let everyone think about this as she's coming over.
Yeah.
It says, "Someone is committing all this badness," and she says, "Even though me being a little more energetic than others is supposed to be my strong point," because she's running out of energy.
Mhm.
And I just love these like little Emilia quotes. I mean, I've talked about how much I like how much better he's writing Emilia's dialogue recently, but these are just prime examples of it, where she's simultaneously saying things that are headed in like innocent, but they feel like, you get this idea that she's very well spirited. Like she's a very like high spirited person, even though everyone else is like in chaos and there's battles around her. She still has this very innocent and like childish sort of demeanor. That's very funny.
It's also, I think, very realistic to a like up-spirited person in real life, where they talk to themselves and big themselves up, right? Like, okay, I'm running out of energy, but I can't give up now because everyone's trying just as hard as I am. It's very realistic to me of someone who's like that in real life, someone that is upbeat and does have that sort of mission statement of, yeah, come on, let's do this. It's really wholesome.
Emilia is slowly becoming more and more of a proper shonen protagonist, and it really feels like she's growing from like a side character in a shoujo to the basically being like a Naruto kind of character.
100%. I mean, her strength that we keep on seeing throughout like these arcs is that like she is truly living up to her title as a witch, right? Mm-hmm. Like beforehand, it was like, oh, she always had this self-conscious thing. She's relying only on Puck, all this stuff. And now that like all this time has passed, arc 5 through arc 6, arc 7, like and now into 8, like we are seeing her slowly develop into this like true powerhouse where it's like, no, she kicks everyone's ass pretty much most of the time.
Well, this is also her real chance to get to see for herself just how powerful she is, even like compared to others, because it's not like she's jumping in to fight Mizoria back in Guarl where she's fighting with Priscilla because she knows that she can take this fight. She's doing it because she knows that's the right thing to do to try and help.
Yeah.
And is slowly starting to see that she can do all of these things.
I mean, it
is within her wheelhouse.
She even tells Ram, I am strong. Yeah.
But she is. Emilia's great. And I think this phase is like my favorite that she's ever been. I love her in this phase entirely.
She is the best. I feel like this is Emilia finally feeling fully actualized. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is the concept of what Emilia's character is.
Should have always been.
In a way. Yeah.
In an appealing way in which it's like, oh, this is a distinct character who's not just a damsel. She's not just a crux for Subaru's feelings. It's like, no, we see her do things independent of him, like this entire time, obviously, and like leading up to this. And also it's like she has her own like desires. She's like able to equip with her own people in her own way. She's not in her head. She's not, like sort of subdued in any sort of way. Like, no, this is her trying to be the candidate for the throne that she's always wanted to be. I think that's amazing. And I think like, as obviously Subaru's kind of passed out, they're like, okay, let's evacuate. Like these little the Rem interaction, right? Do they interact now or later?
They do a little bit here.
Yes.
Like Emilia seeing Rem for the first time was like, oh, I've never seen you with your eyes open before. Or I don't know if she thinks that or says that to her, but she makes the point of she can recognize her and had never seen her with her eyes open before, but could still tell that this is who that was. And that she would be I think she was upset that Subaru wasn't there to see her awake.
Yeah.
Right.
Not picking up that obviously he had already done so.
Yeah.
Right.
And she princess carries Rem. It's so cute.
I know, right? There's a moment where it's like, okay, I see. Where it's like they're like, oh, I wonder like what are like this is the thing that Rem always thinks like who is
she to me?
Yeah. Who is she to me? And then once Emilia picks her up and stuff like that, Rem and Emilia are both thinking, what are we to each other? And I think like that sort of idea of like Rem being a little bit flustered by being carried like this is kind of cute. Anyways.
So it was just to call back to my own experience reading this months and months ago. And this was kind of before we did the Remif stuff as well. But here was the point where I saw an opportunity with Provincial Rem that I hadn't considered before. In that this version of Rem doesn't see Emilia in that like master to servant relationship yet.
Yes.
And neither does Emilia.
No, exactly. So this is, for one, a chance for these two to actually become like friends and get to know each other properly in just their own experience and develop it correctly without Roswell or Rom like really interfering in that.
Yeah.
As well as, if our own hopes for the final status for everything wants to happen, this is a chance for it to go through.
Yeah.
Like Subaru is clearly not a romantic interest right now, and Rem and Emilia are both they're both great. Especially right now, they're kind of their best they've ever been.
I'm not gonna lie. I did pick up a couple vibes there. That the Princess Carrie made me blush a little. I was like, ayo.
A flashback to Memory Snow?
Yeah, literally. It's just like, oh wow, poly ending setup?
It is. I love this character so much.
It's very much, that moment was very much a fan service moment done right. It was super sweet and wholesome. It made me happy. I was like, oh, not only have these guys reunited again, they get a really wholesome first bonding moment together. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, they do.
It's great.
It sets their initial relationship with her, whereas even like Rem makes the point of, like, when she first met Subaru, he had this awful odor, and he immediately got off on the wrong foot by attacking Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas everyone else is nothing but a positive experience when she first introduces to them.
Apart from Todd.
Well, yeah. I mean, everyone else in that she should know, who knows of her.
Yeah. I also now think about a big like kind of theme of this phase has been like first meetings redone.
Getting like another chance.
Reuniting. Yeah. And I love everything coming up, obviously.
Oh my god, yeah.
There's a lot of people meeting old people that they thought were gone. I guess that's the nature of bringing back the dead. But beyond that, I mean, we get a another interesting moment with Yorna and
Priscilla.
Priscilla, right? Yorna, Priscilla, and
Arakia.
Arakia, thank you.
One thing I'll say before we talk about this is because the beginning of this chapter is from Vincent's perspective, and I just wanted to mention first that I love the detail of Vincent immediately going into Vincent Valakia, Emperor of Valakia mode, and directing everyone with what they need to do to sort this scenario out as they retreat, right?
Yeah, it's the Vincent that we saw in EX4, not the one we saw in EX5.
Exactly. And there was this interesting detail that I wanted to see what you guys think before we talked about the more fun stuff, like a little world building thing. Vincent asked Ooblik how many stargazers are nearby. And Ooblik says, my voice can reach like 27, and they're tasked with like, evacuating the civilians out. But it made me think, there's a limit. There's like a limit on the range of which they can contact each other. And there's 27 of them? God damn.
Well, I think he's just meaning that he's able to talk to all the ones in the city, counting up to 27.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. But it's
because like what's her name? Mizelda's sister's friend.
Yeah,
the Shudrakian Stargazer was clearly hundreds of miles from the others, and she was still getting like information on the song and able to pass along her.
Yeah. It's an interesting little telepathic network they've got going on there. But Yorna and Priscilla stuff, go!
Okay, so like, in this battle, right, one thing that, is sort of Yorna's goal is to try to make it so that Arakia kind of submits to her love, is the idea, like forcing this love on her so that they can sort of subdue her in this moment, right? Both Priscilla and Yorna can use the soul marriage technique, and they're doing so in this moment. But of course, Priscilla thinks I'm kind of jumbling around the thoughts of this battle, but basically, Priscilla has this thought that I can use this technique better because of the Yang sword, which can cut things like concepts. Cut things very precisely that Yorna can only just punch, right? Or like can only affect with, physical. And right now, in the state that Arakia is in, as she's submerged a bunch of different elements, it's kind of hard to really deal with her in any sort of way. in this moment in which they're both trying to get across to Archaea that, like, hey, chill out, take a chill pill. Like, there is a thing like Archaea is doing, which I think is very interesting insight into her character, right? Which is, let's see, yeah, like this idea that she is not like Todd, like the person that she had come with, who is a beast, right? She wishes that she was like a beast, but then she realized that actually beasts, they have this underlying sense of pride that tethers them to the world and who they are, and she is but a phenomena, right? Just like water or wind or any of the elements that she herself conjures. This idea that she's trying very closely to become these things is to strip herself of her identity, and it's how she's been able to been used all this time, and it gives me that insight, which is that she sees herself not just as a tool. No, that's something that identity would be. She's more something like water. Like, she doesn't care if people pour her into containers or whatever. She has no care or interest because she knows what had happened in the past when she's had those feelings.
Right. And I don't think it's that she is like water. She wants to be like water and is trying to embody it.
Yes, because
she's a literal abandoned puppy. Like, right. She is as much as it's kind of messed up to think about, her character has always acted like and been receptive to being Priscilla's literal like pet dog. Mm-hmm. And when Priscilla's gone and clearly alive, and now that she must realize that she faked her death and purposefully left her behind after the second time around with Priscilla's first husband, that Priscilla doesn't care about her or doesn't want her. And so if she still tries to be that beast, that dog, that person who takes pride in being at Priscilla's side, then that means that she was hurt and she's not going to be able to accept that.
Right. And this is a good quote that kind of exemplifies that, which is just like, but fire would not suffer pain, nor would it die if it was extinguished by water. Todd's words were devoid of any emotion toward Archaea. That was comforting. Just as one did not love fire or water, Todd had no feelings towards Archaea. Being treated so vacuously was Archaea's salvation. That was why. And then it goes into, the idea that her escape from this all, every single bit of pain, is her close proximity. And I think this is very interesting, right? We go talk about prosecuted tribes and Wallachia, more spirit eaters, of course, and we get to talk about how the people have been trying to subjugate her since she was little. So even though we're talking about her as just Priscilla's puppy, like, the idea is that her entire existence has been predilected in a similar vein as Todd, but more so, truly, like, she has been tried to been used by so many people her entire life because of her power, because of her strength. And in the escape is the proximity to all the things that she can embody when she is a spirit eater. And she's felt so tantalizingly close all this time to be like those elements. And, truly fire, earth, wind, water. And I think that idea of like her resistance to it is very interesting. I like the idea of, like, it's not just that we just kind of came with Todd, who thinks of himself as somebody who is beyond that, but actually has very like strong ego at the center. This is her attempt at being completely free of any ego.
At least to me, I didn't necessarily vibe that much with her mindset for it, but what it does to establish the contrast and the conflict between her, Priscilla and Yorna, especially with Yorna, whose explicit mission here is to bring Archaea in as family, to like make her love her the same way.
Yes.
Like, showing that you're supposed to be Priscilla's like foster sister, like her best friend. I want to let you into that family. And it's almost that Yorna is fighting for Archaea and like her future, as well as fighting against her in this actual battle.
Yeah.
Another thing that I kind of want to bring up with this is that, like, not only is that like not enough for Archaea, I think, in her feelings towards it, right? That's why she's not receptive to it. But also, I think another thing is, as we'll talk about later with Vincent, is that Priscilla here, Archaea knows, is putting up a front, even as she's saying things like, the world belongs to me, like, all these things. And it saddens her deeply, I think. Arakia is seeing her try to put up this strong facade still and not relate to her fully. And it hurts her. I think she won't fully fold back into loving, Yorna or Priscilla until that vulnerability is shown. But like Priscilla can't show that vulnerability, and that's why she's still fighting. That's just my perspective.
Well, I mean, clearly that's also true. Arakia ends up winning in the end here. Like they don't come out of this well. At least they're not enough to join up with everyone else.
Yeah, and the other thing here is this makes also a lot of sense to me because I'm always like, Arakia was such a wild card and problem for Vincent. Why didn't he ever solve it, right? And initially, when we got the concept of like what he was planning, it made some sense to me. But it straight up confirmed here because Priscilla thinks about it, which is she knows she made a mistake with making Arakia's pillar herself because Vincent could never fulfill that because he never intended to. He intended for Priscilla to be the next empress, right?
Yeah, and we all know that Vincent was trying to die. I mean, we talked about, I think, even in the DX novel that we read, is that Vincent's entire thing in being Arakia's sort of rebound here was the worst thing possible to happen for her because she has nobody else to, like, her form of attachment to somebody like Vincent is nothing because Vincent doesn't care about that. Well, we'll get to that later.
Yeah,
like he does not truly relate to people in that way that somebody like Arakia needs to fill that void that Priscilla had in her life.
Well, he couldn't because like he doesn't want anyone to be close to him when he knows that he's going to die.
Exactly, yeah.
So that responsibility, I think that was Priscilla's biggest miscalculation.
Yeah, I mean, she calls it one of her biggest mistakes in her narration almost, I think, right? Like, she's like, this is a thing that the child Prisca, despite how prodigious she is, that was the mistake she made.
Yeah.
Who was also like 9 years old at the time.
Yeah,
so
you can't blame
It's hard to blame Prisca for making that mistake, but I applaud Priscilla for recognizing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And realizing that she's not. It's interesting to see from her mind that she realizes that she's not flawless.
And let me be clear, I love Priscilla and stuff like that. There are layers to her character that I like, I'm operating on where I'm like, everything that she says, I'm now kind of taking with like, not a grain of salt, but like I'm taking it as this is a performance. Like we get it with Vincent later on, but like there is something beneath Priscilla that still needs to come out.
What it also kind of, sorry, not to just immediately segue for this, it also, to me, highlights more of what her relationship with Schultz is.
Yes.
Where he is clearly someone who, just as Arakia was, is 100% devoted to her, absolutely adores her, and cares about her significantly. But she doesn't want him doing more than he is able to, or really has to, in order to stay close to her. She's fine with him just being nearby and acting as just a source of comfort. She doesn't need him to be this ultimate, unyielding servant. For any of that. And that is someone who she is able to extend her soul marriage love to.
Yeah, exactly. Priscilla learned the mistakes and is giving a softer hand to, Schultz, because obviously she was very rough around the edges with Arakia's, like the way that she kind of treated her. And like, obviously tricked and stuff like that with her for her benefit, but still tricked her. Like, and then the thing is that like the real Priscilla is the one who wants to kiss women, and that has been long. Like when you see her talking to Rem in, like I'm saying as like mostly a joke, but like when you see her talking to Rem and stuff like that, and in the side story, and even like hanging out with Liliana, that is her true like self.
Yeah, just, come into the bath with me. You don't have to worry about it any bit. I'm just going to take my towel off in front of you and let you do whatever you think is going to be most impactful here, miss. Come on. Yeah. Priscilla in all of this is just, man, chef's kiss. I love this character so much.
She's great. I think of her so differently of how I used to think of her, because I never disliked her, but like the evolution of her character in my mind has been a very satisfying journey so far. Before we continue, I need to run to the loo really badly, so
got it
in a sec.
All right.
Yeah.
I will take that opportunity to do so as well.
Good. Okay, yeah. So Arkia should definitely kiss. Priscilla should definitely kiss Arkia, and then everything will be solved.
Yeah, unresolved tension.
I mean, building that like love connection up, Yorna had to kiss Subaru at like earlier point.
Yeah,
like if that's how it has to happen, then that's how it has to happen.
If that's how it has to be, that's how it has to be.
Yeah, it's great.
Look, everyone needs their silver-haired girl in this story. Okay, Priscilla's is just Arkia's.
Yeah,
everybody's getting one. Yeah, everyone's getting one. We talked about Al's silver-haired girl.
Yeah, like his whole weird thing with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I'll see if that comes back into the story later. Now that he's missing, mysteriously missing again. Am I right?
Yeah, he's not with everyone else again.
Why is he missing right now? I wonder.
Because Ram is on the train. That's why. Because we can't see him with Ram.
That is true.
You're exactly right.
But it's also mysterious that Sphinx shows up and now he's gone again. What's going on? Anyways, we get to let's see. After that kind of concludes in the way that it's like, well, they're gone. It's not looking good.
No, it's not.
We get a really cool scene. Let's see if I can find the lead up to it. Let's see. We're Cecilius.
Yes.
Can I find it? Wait, you know what page that's on? Or can you read the quote?
I do not. I know it's at the end of the chapter with Priscilla and Arakia stuff.
Let me find this because there's a really cool lead into this that I want to get. Let's see. Okay, I think I found it. Let me get it. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is it. Okay, great. Let me read this on 1:5. And the quote is, let me get it. Yeah. The boy smiled. No matter the time, he was always smiling. Even if the color of the sky changed, even if these vast lands violently fissured, even if a natural disaster yet unseen by those blue eyes assailed upon the world, and unprecedented events tried to get in his way, he would smile. Had he gone crazy? Yeah, he was crazy. Had he been drunk? Yeah, he was drunk. Not on battle, not on alcohol, not on love, not on blood. Absolutely, thoroughly, unquestionably a maniac. Definitely, undoubtedly, unequivocally a drunkard. That boy can just smile. If he did not do so, folk who are busy wouldn't purse their eyes on the stage of a boring actor now, would they? I just thought that lead up was really, really good. Because I was like, what are they talking about? And then I was like, oh, it's Cecilius. Mm-hmm. And Cecilius managed to lead all the way up to the main boss.
Yeah,
he found Sphinx in the first phase of the arc.
I think
it's already like their most dangerous attacker.
He just did like a weird like Dark Souls like boss skip, like went through a wall or something and just randomly ended up finding the final boss.
This is so. I mean, like I never really had like too many cool moments with Cecilius, but this is probably.
This is his coolest moment without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, him running in ahead of the Pleiades battalion, just cutting things down while they're following up behind him is also pretty cool. I do like that aspect.
Like cool, but the way this is written, it just hits. Do you know what I mean? Like it feels like poetry.
And I also like the idea of this is probably like a part of his like mentality. Like this is the first time we've ever seen it like so up close, where it's like he doesn't care that he's crazy. He doesn't care that he is lost in this fanciful, narrative he's painted for himself, that he's like, he understands that he's delusional. Like he understands that he's gone past the line, right? Mm-hmm. But he's still excited about it, and I can't help but admire that in some way, like this idea that, you're so convicted to the point where you're like, I don't really care that this is bad for me. I know it's bad only for myself. So I'm just gonna let it all out. I'm gonna commit all the way.
Commit to the bit.
Yeah, commit to the bit all the way. And I can't help but admire that somewhat. Yeah. Of course we'll get to like obviously he's obnoxious. Obviously we'll get to him doing bad stuff later, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
I'm
so
sure
far,
letting the most unstable person in the entire group go up against the final boss is not going to go
but
Yeah.
as
poorly
I
at
said
all.
before, it's gonna be one of those anime moments where, hey, at least you stalled me for blah, 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 blah,
30
blah.
days. Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
I can tell you that my theory at this time was he was going to somehow lose, and that they were going to have the
Return
threat
zombie.
of an undead Cecilius against them, which would
Yeah.
be a nightmare.
It would be a nightmare.
My
It could
theory
make
was
sense, but
that Cecilius was actually going to join sides with Sphinx out of like some sort of like theatrical thing that we wouldn't understand.
Just for the vibe.
Yeah, just for the whoa,
yeah.
this would be great storytelling. But then
But he sees
as I
himself as a hero.
infiltrated, I'll turn on her because, you know, I was the hero all along. Do you know what I mean? That's the sort of fucking thing I could see Ceci doing.
Fair enough. Now, I know this isn't thematically or chronologically next in the story, and I was going to segue into this with something much worse. But I do want to talk on the Rem and Ram
Yes.
meeting
Yes.
next. I was going to segue with speaking of girl and girl after the Priscilla Arkia
God.
conversation, but
Hey,
y'all jumped to Cecilius too quick.
speaking of girl on girl, yeah, let's get some girl on girl action with Rem and Ram. Innocently.
Yes,
Uh,
I don't even know the right word.
Oh my god.
This
Eid
is
at this.
great. Yeah.
I love everything about it.
This was one of the yeah, like there's very few things that visually get my cute factor, because like show me a picture of a cute cat, like sure I'll be like, oh, that's kind of cute, but I won't like I won't like visibly be like smiling about it or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But this is something that really got to me. Like they are just so cute in this
Oh.
moment, and the way that it's written is just so perfect.
It
Like
is.
new Rem and Ram, their personalities are so close to each other, but also like, you know, Ram has that arrogance still, right? Rem doesn't have that arrogance, like, and it's just so great. Like their like immediate feelings and stuff like that. Somebody else can like lead into this if they want.
Yes, so it's interesting that with the situation that they've been put into here, where gluttony having eaten everyone's memories on both sides of this, but then both instinctually knowing and feeling their connection to each other lets them kind of get past that awkward, well, we look alike, but are we really related in any way stage, and just get into the I know that you are my sister here. But also, kind of the weird state of the Sleeping Beauty syndrome here has rendered them not technically twins anymore. Rem is a year younger than Ram now, and that she's going to stay that way. So she is like a proper older sister from here on out.
Yeah. One of the things, yeah, I was gonna say one of the things that I mean, this is just the way my brain works. I did kind of catch that vibe too. Well, they technically aren't sisters anymore in a sense because they don't remember that, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean they're still sisters. They have no memory of growing up together.
yes,
But
exactly, right. So
in
like
that
all they have is the dynamic to work on, right?
But in that same sense, they no longer have that hang up that they were both aware of Rem feeling guilt over what Ram has gone through. Now it's just being happy to have each other.
It's a new beginning of their sisterhood.
And we've talked about the way in which Rem's amnesia puts her in a position that is so much better for the health of the dynamics they're in. Like, it's come to the point where it's like, I don't want Rem to get her memories back. Or like, one of the things that, you know, this is a moral quandary that like comes up in fiction all the time, is that if somebody like Rem, who is technically a different person right now, right? She has the same personality as she did beforehand in a way, right? Like in the terms of like, you know, Cruz loses her memories, she's technically the same person, right? But like Rem here is almost like a different person, right?
Well,
And
they don't have the hang-ups they have from bad experiences. It's just their like actual personality, like who they really are.
Yeah.
If they weren't worried or self-conscious or anxious about any of it,
or obsessed or fixated.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's something that even Rem thinks about in this reunion of like if she does recover her memories, wouldn't all of her problems return to her as well? And that was a really poignant like moment of self-reflection from Rem, right? Like, because we've seen the little moments with her in between of like her the anxiety of not knowing who you are, but in a way, with the comfort that she's had with Ram now, it's like, do I need those memories anymore? Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's a really interesting idea, I have to say, because I agree. I don't know if I want her to get her memories back in this sense.
I still desperately do, but I know that having gone through this time without having them is going to reshape the way that she sees the world and acts from here on out.
Yes.
True. I also think one of the things about it that's very interesting, and also think like lovely, is that like everybody in the Emilia camp are starting, like, you know, we started it with Emilia here, right? We see it with Rem and Ram now with the reunion, is that they all realize that happiness doesn't have to be predicated on the condition that Rem has.
Mm-hmm.
They can now just be happy that she's awake.
Yes. It is still a win. Like, things are improved from where they were before drastically. They have her together. And there are still other sides of it that I can like see that it is a huge point of anxiety for her, because she can see how much everyone else either detests or distrusts Louis, where she's like the only one that she liked her from the start.
Yeah.
And if that would change, if she got her memories back and remembered what this person actually did.
100%. And we'll talk about Louis in a second. I just think like this moment is just so like tender and natural. I think like the sort of awkwardness, like it initially comes as this like slight awkwardness where they both are kind of trying to analyze the right way to approach the situation. They're like, they're both thinking it'd be weird if we just hugged each other immediately, but we both kind of feel like we should.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's both evident to them that they are who they say they are, and they both have this feeling. This is somebody who should be deeply important to me, and I want to feel what it feels like to hug her. You know what I mean? And they both kind of,
And Ram really steps up as that elder sister, right? Like, Rem is having that uncertainty and that awkwardness, and so is Ram, but Ram makes that first move, right? Of, you know, it's okay. You know, I know this is an emotionally complicated moment for both of us, but she says, fuck it anyway, and grabs her. It's just, it's so wholesome. Like,
it's weird not to hear you call me older sister.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
and they both suss out the dynamic immediately. Even though they both don't know it, they can feel it in each other's like demeanor.
Yes, yeah. And it's just written so well. And this phase, and we'll get to this more because there's even more satisfying things we'll be talking about. But this phase has been one of the most satisfying pinpoints in the story as a whole for me so far, because it's just been so many satisfying moments and like things that just have come not to like a full conclusion, but like I've had like my own mini ending for some of these resolutions and plot threads. And it feels so good.
It does. With these two especially, it's going to be really great for Rem to get to see Ram from her own eyes.
Yes.
But without the clouded vision of the memory of what happened to her and how much better she used to be.
Exactly.
And just get to experience the Ram that everyone else knows for once. I
will be kind of like, it sounds silly, but if there's a moment where Rem sees Ram's bad housekeeping and is like, "You're such a slob. Like, why are you like this?
Aren't you the older sister?"
Yeah.
Yes.
The moment that they start actually bickering like that and stuff like that, I'll actually feel like kind of like emotional. You know, like I'll be like, "Oh my god, that's how it should always have been."
That would bring a genuine tear to my eye, because it's that idea that they can do that thing that siblings do, the bickering, right? Because that wasn't really a thing before in their relationship because of that like disparity, right?
Yeah, like Ram could never help improve Ram's situation, and Ram was too, you know, fixated on her, like the things that she's lost, to really step up in that way as like, you know, an actual sister, you know.
Well, Ram was also
the foremost.
Ram was also taking what feels like the front of kind of the abuse from Roswell for a lot of it as well. Carrying the burden of like knowing who this person is to them and having to deal with that. And I'm also still not entirely sure how much of her relationship with Roswell existed before the Rem memory wipe happened for all of it, and like how much of that is like actually her sister's feelings that she's ascribed to the only other person in her memories at that point.
It's definitely exaggerated because of what happened, right?
Well, yeah, for her right now, like that's all she has, right?
But I think
it's
like
it's going to balance out naturally now because she has this new sisterly relationship.
Right. It's going to be nice to see Rom finally have someone else herself that she can really feel these things for and to. Because it was starting to build up with that with Emilia, like during Arc 6, because she was kind of the one taking care of her. But as soon as Rom was back with Roswell, as we've seen what little extent that there has been, she's kind of fallen back to old habits.
It's very much
that.
a regression in that way,
But when Rem is with her, she's just on her. Like they're sat next to each other, they're holding hands, they're taking care of each other. Rom doesn't even talk to Roswell in this phase, I don't think. Or at least I have no memory of it happening.
I don't think so. But yeah, like
or Dudley, as he prefers.
Yeah, he's really funny in this. I mean, like, we'll talk about Roswell's personality and like how much of it's like real and how much fake. I mean, like a lot of times I'm giving him like somewhat of a benefit of doubt. Like, there's something that like outside of like Todd, right? Like talked about this before, and we've given.
You cut out.
You cut out.
We've talked about this before. Might need to disconnect and reconnect. Your mic's not coming through.
Uh-oh.
Hello?
Oh, hello?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
We can now.
Okay, what did I last say?
It was like a minute ago.
I was about to say that we know stuff about Roz and stuff like that, and like much he's like progressed, and like
yes,
I think like his personality is very interesting because it's very different now than it was before, and you know, like we talk about like the way in which Todd, you know, was unredeemable, where Roswell actually cares about other people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And beforehand he manipulated like Ram so much and whatnot, whereas like Rem could see this, and I'd be like, Ren would be like, you are in love with what? This person who destroyed your homeland? What are you talking about? Our homeland?
I mean, Rem is going to be joining the group of Petra and what is his niece's name?
Yeah. Below, what's her name?
Yeah, whatever his niece's name is, of the young women that he hates, that they don't like him.
Yes, yeah.
That he wants nothing more than their approval, especially because of how important she is to Rom. Because
Anna Rose, is that her name?
Anna Rose, yes. Because this Rem doesn't put up with any bullshit of that level. Nope. Not from the Prime Minister, not from the Emperor of Wallachia, not from the only person who claims to know her for hundreds of thousands of miles. That at least she gets confirmed here from everyone else that he does genuinely care about her and it wasn't all an act, which is a nice relief for her, I'm sure. But
she gets complicated feelings about his stench going down too.
Honestly, that's a bit of lore I wanted to bring up because that's never been confirmed before, that it does recede after some time.
Some breaks in between, yeah.
Because like right now he would be like the stinkiest person of all. Like you would be able to smell her from a mile away if it kept on. You know what I mean? So it makes sense.
Right. Well, I was just never sure from the way that it was ever described back in like Arc 2 and Arc 4 of does it get worse each loop, or is it just as soon as the loop starts, it's bad, but then over time it gradually goes down, or they just get used to it? It is interesting to know that it has receded back in that time.
Yeah, I wonder if they ever mentioned that during his. There's like, you know, like obviously Rom was ever going to be like, oh, you smell particularly nice today.
Well, Rom can't sense it. It's
exactly,
only Rem.
That's what I mean. Yeah, like she can't really, you know, Rem's always been the person to do that.
Oh, yeah, that is a good point, that she's still the only one who's going to be able to notice that he smells.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like we couldn't tell until then that like anything changed. I do think that it's interesting. I mean, we've talked before about Rem's special powers and stuff like that, and like what it's going to be, and how we're like, she actually does have powers that are comparable with the Rams, and she still has the horn. So it's like,
yeah.
Anyways, but it's a different type of power because she's a healer. So yeah.
But yeah,
well, she's a healer, but she's also just really good at throwing balls of ice and deflecting fire. She killed like 20 witch cultists trying to get back to Subaru in episode 15.
But her personality is more nurturing. She's not the wind like Ram is, you know.
True.
But yeah, we get some really wholesome reunion moments in this section of the phase. And can I just say, I really appreciate that Teppei broke the fourth wall a little bit with the narration and was like, man, Subaru passes out often. This is a oftenly used plot device. And so it discusses how he's the master of fainting, you know? I'm just like, I really do appreciate that Teppei is a bit self-aware in that way of he's used it as a plot device so often, you know? But
it's a very helpful piece to just have the character go out and then come back in where you can pick back up from.
You don't have to have everybody be like, okay, and then they walk.
Yeah.
Because otherwise Teppei feels the need to explain how they got there. Like how he went back and showed how Emilia got from the fight to saving him.
Yeah, he feels that way. He's more restraint. And also I feel like this is kind of subjective thing, but do you think that like he's having more fun writing the characters now than ever before? Like it feels that way.
Oh, it feels that way without a doubt. Yeah,
because he spends so much more time away from Subaru now than he used to.
Yeah, I think he's really gotten into a groove with the characters. I think there's been like a flash of inspiration. You know, like he's really hit his moment.
And also he's been writing a lot more in general, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think he's really like what's going on in ReZero.
But yeah, I mean, Subaru gets to reunite with everyone. He's surprised that everybody came for him, although he really shouldn't be at this point.
Including the 3 battalion boys. Who I'm so surprised that Subaru has still just like, you know, man, all these people showed up for me. Beatrice has a go at him for that. She's like, yeah, of course everyone came for you. We love you, idiot.
Yeah, she does say that, yeah.
Well, and like, and his 3 battalion guys are there with him. His whole group still came. Like, they're all there as well.
Yeah, but I mean, they're sleeping in the cabin with the rest waiting to say hi.
Because
Whites is the man, and I love this guy. I have him in the A tier on my character list from last year.
The new tier list is gonna go crazy.
It is. It's gonna go crazy. But man, some of these reunions are so satisfying. I mean, it feels so appropriate for Otto to be the one that's awake and waiting for Subaru to wake up, right? And like immediately comment on what's going on and already come out with like a criticism. Very Otto Subaru dynamic. It's great. And
Otto is so good this phase too.
Yeah, he's so good. I got very emotional just because it's just, man, this feels so good to have the gang back together. And I think I got into Subaru's head a little bit here, and it's just like him just thinking about, oh my god, I'm so happy to hear this idiot's voice. This is great. And I'm just like, oh my god, this is so good.
I'm going to check how long it had been. Just, you two keep going for a second. I'm going to look on the website.
But it's just so satisfying. And it's really cool to see that Teppei works in like as a little minor plot point for this chapter that Otto being the first to meet Subaru and not waking everyone up gets everyone pissed at Otto. Like they're all just mad at Otto.
Oh right, yeah, you're inconsiderate. Yeah,
like how dare you? We had dibs, bro. We had dibs. Even Garfiel, who normally stands up for him when it goes past a certain point, like nah, fuck you.
And they're talking about like, hey, you know that when you're gone, all of us kind of are dysfunctional.
Yeah. Like because Subaru is literally the glue of the Emilia camp. Like,
yeah, he is.
And he's literally the one that brought them all together.
Exactly.
I mean, except for what Roswell recruited, but he's the reason why they are all with each other.
He united them all
in a somewhat healthy manner. Yeah.
He snapped all of them individually out of their fun, except for Otto, who snapped him out of his fun. Which is probably the reason why their dynamic is a little bit different. And I love Otto.
But I love that. I think that really, it makes, Teppei has done a very good job of making Subaru's friendships and relationships stand out between each character. His relationship with Julius and his new relationship with Vincent, which we'll talk about in a second, they're adjacent, but they are different. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I 100% agree with that. I was just about to say that, like, speaking about Otto more, we're gonna get to Vincent's thing. Like, as I was saying before, Otto is I think I've said this before in previous things, that like Otto is like one of the characters that truly stands apart of like, he is not the person who like Subaru brought together and out of their shell and is inspired by Subaru in a way. Like Otto and him are like truly like equals in that way. They're like friends.
They
right?
are.
Yeah.
Yes. Because like
And-
Otto is also the only other one in the group that people will listen to directions from, aside from Subaru.
He led all this together. Like without Otto's influence, they wouldn't have been able to come together like this.
I think also Otto is the person that has seen Subaru at his weakest the most. Because
that's true.
We've seen
aside from Rem.
Yeah, aside from Rem, but this Rem doesn't know that, right? But also, like, even the small moments with Emilia kind of pale in comparison to that. Those moments with Otto and him in Arc 4, I think shows that Otto, whilst believing in Subaru like everyone else does, he doesn't have like the
superhero view of him.
Yeah, it's not a debt. It's like he did it out of his own empathy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's like, we're friends. I'll help you do this. Yeah. You don't have to do it on your own. And it is the point that he comes up with the plan against Roswell.
And that's why this chapter is called No One Can Be Alone. It fucking writes itself, doesn't it?
Which I have now checked. Subaru had been separated from everyone else IRL time for 2 years and 6 months at that time.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah, it was November 5th, 2020, when Arc 6 finale came out and Subaru got whisked away.
Oh my god, yeah.
And No One Can Be Alone came out in May 10th, 2023.
Hey! Whoa. Look at that.
2.5 years.
That's a lot of build-up.
That's funny. I like that. I mean...
But yeah, he's been with Beatrice there for like 3 months, but it's been a long time.
Well, at least it's not as long as it's been since the break between waiting for Winds of Winter. And,
oh my god!
Oh my god! Yeah.
Let's not get into that. Let's not get into that.
That's another podcast. But I love this introductory moment of Subaru doing the thing he does where he's thinking out loud and he's like, man, everyone's so overprotective or wanting to take shifts to hold my hand. And then Otto is like, yeah, like you have any right to call anyone overprotective. And Otto gets like vulnerable with Subaru, which he very rarely does, only when it's for important moments, right? Because of the way their friendship dynamic works. But he gets this very rare vulnerability moment and makes Subaru cry just by saying, I'm glad you're safe and welcome back. And
because these two also have this interesting dynamic of, and the rest of the group does this to him because Subaru does as well. But Otto is the only one that Subaru like rags on or like sarcastically insult. He acts like an actual buddy too.
Yeah.
Everyone else, it's just like constant praise or actual criticism of Roswell. But for the most part, it's constant praise and uplifting, and he doesn't ever want to make anyone upset or say any mean things to them.
It's very much the masculine side of a friendship, right? Of the being able to take jabs at each other in a joking way and calling each other names, but that being a sign of endearment.
Yeah, but it makes that moment of, I'm glad you're okay, I was worried about you too. Like, it's not just people saying something to Subaru, because Otto is someone that can always get through to him when he needs to.
Exactly.
And it must really hit of just how worried he made everybody in that instant.
Yeah. And it's great. But then that leads to a slight argument between them and wakes everyone up, which Otto didn't want.
No.
And everyone's like mad at Otto. And I just loved those little character interaction moments. It's so good.
It's like he's almost speed running everyone's relationship with Subaru, getting like caught back up with it here.
And there's a really cute moment here where everyone's like, Emilia and Rem, especially, are like, man, child Subaru is cute. It's not Emilia and Rem. It's Emilia and Petra. Yeah, Emilia and Petra are like, man, child Subaru is cute, but where's our Subaru?
Yeah, Petra wants to. It's funny because it's like obviously Emilia, big Subaru's always preferable because it's like a man, right? And then like Petra is like, no, I've always been in love with the big brother.
Yeah,
so that's her taste,
Well, if Subaru's like this, it's just stalling her plans even more because she is out there actively gunning to try and woo Subaru over time.
It's so
whereas
cute.
Emilia if we don't forget, she thought for the longest time that he was only like 13 years
13,
old or
yeah.
12 years.
He probably is like, this is too young for me.
Yeah.
This is too young for my taste.
And even if she had to wait the 5 years, she's still 100 years up on him.
Yeah.
It's really not that big of a difference
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of
To
things.
Emilia, her personality has nothing to do with her age in a sense. I mean, like, obviously we talk about the way that, like, her
It's
age
3 different
progression.
ages with
Yes,
her. Yeah.
exactly. But like, I wonder how old she is. I think we've probably done the math. How old she actually is in like unthawed time.
So she is 14 mentally.
Yes.
And 19 physically, and
Right.
I think she's 119
Temporally.
chronologically.
Yeah.
She lost, like, because she went into the ice at 7, came out at 12.
Yes.
So she lost the 5 years, but it has also been 5 years since then.
Yes.
So she's mentally about 14 years old, give or take.
Yeah. There's still some time.
I feel like
that's also going to be something that closes as just she gets experience as herself.
I was about to say, recently I feel like she's maturing a bit more. I don't know how you guys feel, but
100% she is.
She's definitely coming into that like era of me thinking she's 15 to 16 sort of mentality vibe.
And obviously, like, there's I mean, we've talked about this before. There's stuff that's like obviously being developed in that front. It's not like they're not thinking about that.
Yeah,
But
I mean, the whole reason they don't
why-
have a
yes.
relationship is because Subaru recognizes that that's the case.
Yeah.
But
So
Petra must see that too and know that that's
It's a
why she
threat.
has a
Yeah,
chance.
Yeah, exactly.
She's like, I'm gonna become when I'm 18. Oh, it's all gonna be over.
I feel like her whole plan is literally, I'm gonna become 18. I'm gonna be a drop dead bombshell beauty. I'm just gonna surprise Subaru and just like.
Just to remind you too, as well, she doesn't. In Petra's mind, it wouldn't be 18. 15 is an adult here.
I know.
Yes, obviously.
So she only has 2 more years. She's probably trying to wait it out.
Oh, she's like, she's really. Is that her conniving plan? You think? Yeah, she's like, she's like, Subaru, I'm an adult now too, and you're not married right now.
I do wonder.
Probably exactly.
Yeah, I do wonder how long this series is gonna go. Like we've talked about before, I think there's gonna be time.
I think we're getting those 2 years. I think that we're going to get another 1-year time jump at some point in the future.
Definitely.
And that will probably be some amount of time, probably, and then another decent amount of either missed time. Because of how time travels in the story, it wouldn't shock me if there was just a point of time that either someone skipped, went ahead, or traveled forward or backward or something. But
because all our main characters are pretty young, so like the idea is that they're all.
It's very much like I think we'll definitely be getting time after the selection ends.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
So Tepeki won't be able to help himself but writing stuff.
So no matter how much we say it's going to be a certain arc limit, until we see it, it's going to be the answer. Do you know what I mean? Like with how Tepei's writing this out, this is a saga,
Yeah.
So my guess would be 2 more years, which I think is the time that he said the royal selection was supposed to take originally, was 3 years.
I think it's 3 years. Yeah, you're right.
Which would put it at the point everyone is like 20 years old or is otherwise an adult within the world that he cares about. And aside from Beatrice, who's 9 years old.
Around that time is probably where we get a lot of the romantic questions for many characters kind of resolved, right? Which will be very interesting to see the outcomes of. I'm very curious to see where those are going to go.
What if Mimi and Hetero and Tivi just turn like they're just like actually look like tall and stuff like that after?
Oh, like they're
my god!
Saiyans, like they're Saiyans from Dragon Ball. They just get a huge growth spurt.
Oh my god!
They are already 15.
I know. That's why I'm saying it'd be funny if it's just like a year has passed and now next time he sees Mimi is like, I had a huge growth spurt. Mimi had a.
Well, now to be fair, their social idea of what adulthood is and the actual biological puberty are separate, right?
I'm joking. That doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm just saying like their height doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. It's just funny because I think about Garfield and like Ram and stuff.
Yeah.
Triangle that has to be resolved at the end,
Well, Garfield is kind of a good example of that, where we are seeing throughout like the end of the last phase and the beginning of this one that he is growing into his own man for once. Like he's admiring the different men in his life has kind of always been an aspect of it, whether that was like the hatred pointed at Roswell, kind of the older brother admiration he has towards Otto, or like the this is like my own personal hero for Subaru.
Yeah.
But then he's also seeing like past that to, well, this is the old man with Heinkel and looking at like, okay, well, that's like another side of it where he just keeps seeing these different examples of like who he could grow into as.
And obviously, the person he has to surpass is Reinhardt.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe he could figure out a way to do it.
I had an interesting revelation in relation to Garfiel and his relationship with Subaru that I'm curious what you guys would think about, right? Which is, we get a mention later on, we'll talk about this more, that, if they stay in Wallachia, it's a risk to the whole camp, right? And Subaru's like, I'm not going to let anyone die. The third trial Emilia moment where Garfield screams, I'm going to kill you, Natsuki Subaru, right? Is a complete like flip on his view on Subaru as his hero now, right? Do you think Frederica is up the cards to die? Because I think she is. I think
she's been on the cards to die from the beginning. Yeah. She is just close enough to the main story that it's someone that would be impactful, but not in depth enough to be like killing off a main character.
Yeah, One thing that I do know is that Tepeia said that Frederica's name chapter is going to be in the final arc.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So she's going to be been flexible with those QAs before, so I don't know if it could be the final arc, but it will definitely be in the final stretch of the story, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just read that. So I was like Wikipedia trivia.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading the translation for that interview that he did mention was going to be at the end. That one, I think, also had a kind of a mini spoiler for, like, someone asked if we would ever see something, and he said yes, eventually. But I'm not going to say that here because we were actually discussing it.
Okay, yeah.
Makes sense.
But yeah, super wholesome reunion moments. Just so good to have these dynamics back, man. So good. But this is the bread and butter thing I've really been wanting to talk about for this entire podcast. Even though we're 2 hours and 20 minutes in, but we still got so much to talk about.
Yeah.
This Vincent and Subaru breakdown and confrontation is the not only so satisfying, some of the best fucking character writing I've seen in this entire series. This is crazy, and we need to talk about this in depth right now. Let's go.
So Vincent is totally sold on Subaru's powers coming from the direct source of why he is revolved his entire life around like this prophecy that he's got. And Subaru obviously has his own reasons why he's able to see the future.
His good timing.
Exactly. It is such a fascinating insight into Vincent that reframes everything we've seen from him so far.
Exactly.
That his whole fight and everything he's done so far has been a fight in order for himself to die, and how much anger he has at kind of the world, but directed at the Stargazers for that.
Yes.
Yeah. This is the most affirming. Like, I'm glad. Like, we both, me and Wolf, called this to a T in terms of his secret, like, underlying.
Yeah.
But this feels really good that we read it completely correct. This like idea that he wanted to die this entire time. Like, it just makes so much sense.
Well, it's that he wanted to get to the point where he was the one that sacrificed himself. Not necessarily that he was like wanting to die, just that he wanted to be the one that has to deal with it.
It wasn't wanting to die, it was accepting to die.
Yeah, he's
exactly.
Because I love just how furious he is at Subaru for hiding that he was a Stargazer through all of this, when like that's the whole cause of all of it, and just demanding, why is it me? Why did you leave Chisha behind? Or why did I get left behind? Why is Chisha the one who's dead? And just
what is the fate?
Man.
Yeah.
It's a moment that makes me truly emotional. Like I got very close to like full on bawling crying because it's the obviously so far it's the most human we've seen Vincent so far. And this is the time where the mask Vincent comes off and Abel comes back, right? But
well, like this is not Vincent Wallachia, Emperor of the country.
This is Vincent.
This is Vincent Abelux. Like this is the boy who cared about Priscilla and wanted to keep her alive, who became best friends with Chisha Gold after a chance encounter in a meeting.
Apples are red.
Right. This is just the guy. This is who's really been under the masks that Abel has worn the entire time.
Exactly.
including the mask of being this unstoppable, unfeeling, master scheming emperor that's commanding everything. This is like probably, I think it's not the first time that we've seen like the real Vincent beneath it, but it's the first time that Subaru has seen it, and that it gets really kind of gets to stay.
Vincent would do anything for the people that he cares about.
Yes.
And for him, it's always been a matter principle, right? He has this very strong foundation that's never changed and has nothing to do with emotion for him. He will sacrifice anything. And we've talked about Vincent being right? This idea that like he cannot allow his emotions to cloud his convictions, especially when he knows that they are true and they know that they are right and logical, right? And pragmatic, right? Like the way that he has lived his life up to this point has been shirking any sort of emotional responsibility or his own personal feelings. Even his own life in this scenario, he's been anticipating forever.
Yes.
In the prophecy. He said, I don't care about emotions. I don't care about showing who I actually am. I don't care about whatever, as long as it helps the people that I care about, the nation that I love and that I wish to change and affect, and also the people around me that I've grown close to or respect for. Because he can't really grow close to people he's not allowed himself to in a very long time since he's been emperor. But he still respects all the people around him, and that's something that we see very closely. So he envies Subaru's ability in a way, even though he thinks it's ridiculous. He envies his ability to care for his camp so passionately.
And
it's also that Vincent has grown close to people and does care about those around him significantly, to the point where the only reason why he has to accept that sacrifice is going to happen is because he's been told that this is an inevitable fate, that it's deterministic. This is what's going to happen, just period. And it's been, if that's how he's based his whole worldview, like, I know I'm going to succeed at this, I'm going to progress through the here, I have to do this because this is the way I get back to this position, has been shown to be false by Chisha dying for him. So it's shown that there's always been a way out, and that all of this pain that he's had to endure
was almost
and
for nothing.
Push through, not for nothing, but that he was wrong about needing to do it the way that he has.
Yeah.
And it's a slap in the face for him for all this hard work that he's put in, the sacrifices he has made to not get to enjoy the other side of it like Subaru gets to.
I'm going to add another layer on top of this, because this is a really cool moment of dialogue that makes you think, like, another layer deeper to this, which is, I think he's also very tired, because we get this thing of he thinks that Subaru's basically painted the picture of Chisha and Abel's fate as the Stargazer, right? And he blatantly tells Subaru, "You made me Vincent Valaquia again." Like, he wants rest. He doesn't want to be Vincent Valaquia emotionally, I think. Like, he doesn't want to be this stepped up to the plate leader. He was ready to rest when he died. Do you know what I mean?
That's actually an interesting point, is that all the people who believe in the Stargazer prophecies are taking this easy sort of, like, it's resignment, right? Like, it's this idea that you have nothing to worry about. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to think too hard about things. Things are already decided. For Vincent, for a very long time, his manner of dying was a matter of course, and it wasn't the same sort of, like, idea of, like, I'm spiritually following the letter of the observers. It was this idea that this was necessary to bring about the prosperity and peace of the people that he cares so deeply about.
The best chance to save the nation.
Yeah. And that sort of idea that, as he's saying about, like, the observers, he's like, they put their fingers on the scale and have completely sullied all of my convictions for what?
Yeah. And it's the Subaru has a really big moment of insight here, as, like, Vincent is, like, breaking down more and more, and we see Subaru get more and more angry at Vincent. I think also because he sees a lot of himself in Vincent. Now he knows how he's feeling about this.
Well, it's because they are the same.
They're the same
fundamentally down to that level.
Yeah, exactly. The predetermined, and the difference is Subaru's been fighting against fate this whole time, whereas Vincent's been preparing for it, right?
But it's also just Subaru can see something that he has dealt with time and time again, but Vincent doesn't have the chance to go back and redo it.
Exactly.
But Subaru has felt this survivor's guilt before, of having to be left behind when someone else dies, or when he does get reset and everyone else has forgotten him, it's like they're gone anyway. And that is something that he can relate to with Vincent about deeply.
Which is why I think he gets so angry at Vincent for being like, so you planned to die. You did all of this conniving, all of this hard work to maneuver all this stuff, and you just planned to let it all go and die. And it gets Subaru so angry. And
you know, yeah, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was say, you know what's so poignant about this? It is exactly what Subaru thinks punches Abel in the face, or Vincent in the face, which is that this is exactly what Otto did to him.
Yes.
Back in Arc 4. And it's the same as that. And it clicked in my head immediately once that connection was made, which is Vincent is feeling the exact same things that Subaru did back then, where he's thinking, my life isn't that valuable. I'll sacrifice it for the sake of everybody around me. You know, and all the stuff about what can I sacrifice? What can I give? That's all that Vincent's been feeling this entire time. And Vincent's never realized what it can mean if he asks a friend, you know, like that moment where he's like, put your hand out and just ask the friends around you, people who care about you, you know?
Yeah.
That moment that Otto said that to him, that is what Subaru is so upset about, because he realizes that Vincent's falling into the same pitfalls that he fell into.
Yeah. And we get the further extension of this conversation where Subaru is like, okay, so he's perceived my return by death, but he's perceiving it through his own logical gaze, which would be that of a stargazer, right? And then he's like, okay, so that's why you always listen to my advice. And Vincent is really refocusing on the point about you left Chisha behind, not me. And we get I'm going to be reading a lot of quotes from this chapter in particular because there's so many good ones, but this one is amazing, where he refers to Subaru and he calls him a naive, green, immature human being, holding on to plenty of bitterness. Neither do you possess virtue worthy of mention, nor do you possess viciousness worthy of mention. With neither of these, you would have accomplished nothing and died an ordinary man. Vincent has become the closest to perceiving the true Subaru than anyone else has in the series.
Yes. Well, he can see him. He's always seen the kind of man that Subaru was. Yeah. It's just had this cloud of, he's got this cheating prophetic ability.
Yeah, exactly.
On top of him.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Vincent's also given into it as soon as Ublik kind of came into the court, which was this idea that, like, I get it. Powers above me are ordaining against me. Either I struggle against it or I try to work within it the best I can.
Exactly.
And he was like, he's like, I don't regard Subaru as a person. He's just another one of these tools that are showing me the path that I need to walk. And that frustrates him because Subaru wasn't just that, even in the moment to moment. Subaru kept on fighting and whatever. And we
can't attack the town. People will die. We have to do it in a way that no one
what are you talking about? You know what exactly is going to happen.
Yeah.
So why are you fighting me like this?
He's thinking of it as like an insult, right? Like, it's like, you know all this already. Why are you playing with me? Like, we're going to lead into another quote here, which gets to the heart of this, is, why? Why did you leave me behind, Natsuki Subaru? You have no bond to this empire, nor any obligations. You could have been content with protecting the people you have come to know till this day, and nothing more. For what reason did you save me? For what reason did you think you had to try and save me? A man who does not get along with you. He's getting right at the same point as Todd is, right? From before. Of the, like, you know, the emotional way you handle within saving people's lives in front of you. Like, he doesn't, like, it's a logic he doesn't understand. He can't comprehend it. And he's genuinely asking why. Why did you do this? With you being the stargazer, you're mocking me, aren't you? You're laughing at me. Is almost the feeling that's coming across, right?
He's also almost accusing him of killing Chisha almost intentionally rather than himself. Like, you've left me behind. For what purpose? Like, what does this accomplish over anything else? It's like, you've saved me. Because he's also thinking back to all the times where Subaru has gone out of his way to protect other people, whether that's like Louis or even Vincent himself in a couple of the loops, like against the Serpent. doing whatever he can to get Rem safe.
I mean, especially the way he handled the Olbart situation after that one failed loop, right? Like, I think then Abel was Vincent's really immediately starting to see what the sort of inner workings that's going on there, right?
Well, that's got to be the point where he started believing heartedly that Subaru was a stargazer.
Yeah. And
yeah,
it's the element, I think there's the extra added element here that it's not just the letting Chisha die and leaving him behind element, it's that Chisha could have died for nothing, because what if this isn't a real calamity in the first place? Because remember at the end of the last arc, we get that question of like, is this really the trigger Vincent Valakia's death? Because is this the Vincent Valakia that the prophecy is going to accept? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's that ever unknown element under that I imagine that he's feeling right now of like, but what if this even isn't the real thing? And, you know, Chisha died for nothing. This is pointless too. He's doubting. And like...
Sorry, I was gonna say, my opinion is that he's right, and this isn't a disaster yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And that he's meant to die, but he's going to subvert it.
Yeah.
That is, I think he has to beat the fate here as Subaru
alongside Subaru, lending each other.
Well, would you not say that though he did it by sacrificing himself, Chisha did already beat the fate by saving Vincent in the first place?
I could claim that.
But the disaster has to end.
Yeah, I have to see where it goes first, because
they go into context for this phase that the Stargazers were under the understanding that there was no preventing it, but in order to save the nation afterwards, the prophecy had to go as it did, which did lead to Chisha's death.
Yeah.
Right.
And thus, this Vincent still being around to manage everything else. Because as much as he hated having to be put back in that spot, he is really good at it.
Oh yeah, he's the person that suited most to be it, no matter how much he may not want to be.
Right.
Also, go ahead, Gold.
I was gonna say, also the thing about it that kind of ties me into this, and this is just my big macro speculation, is that the arc is named after Vincent Valakia, which it's going to be about him and this nation succeeding where fate is telling them they can't.
Yeah.
That is just my interpretation.
And to add the added context for the extra tension for this scene, right? Like he's grabbed the knife that they were cutting the apples for Subaru with, and he's pinning him against the wall with that knife, right? But then he starts to cut himself a little when Subaru's pushing back a bit, and Subaru's reaching out trying to stop him doing it, and he's like, "You're doing it again. You're trying to save me. I don't understand why. Like, why are you doing this?" Like, it's heartbreaking. Like this kind of breakdown of the person that Vincent is. Like, and I'll go into the next quote here, which is, "Every so often you leave it all to the emotions you feel at that moment, putting to the wayside all beliefs and ideas you have felt until then. You do not follow what you've decided upon, easily reversing whatever course you have concluded that you might ought to be taking. You are unable to categorize what ought to be saved or not, reaching out your hand indiscriminately." And then we get quotes from Todd's words previously, overlapping with that. And Subaru, it comes to this sort of realization that he already knew, but I don't think he'd fought the forts fully before, right? And, Subaru has saved many, but he hasn't saved all of his enemies. And he hasn't...
Yeah, exactly.
He's chosen which enemies he saved, right? And then Vincent immediately chimes in, because he can tell what Subaru's thinking in that moment. And then he says to him, "No, that's not it, Natsuki Subaru. It's not even up to your like or dislike towards others. Were you determined to who to save and who not to save based on your subjective pretenses of people's characters, that I would be able to understand it. But you save those such as me, those you loathe such as me." He's calling Subaru out here. He's like, "I know you don't like me. Why do you keep saving me? From Vincent's worldview, that's not a thing you would do, right?"
Yeah, and also this is just so genius to me, and I just want to throw this out because I remember, and this is my flash, we called this theme from phase 1 of arc 7.
Yep.
That this was exactly what it was about. this like juxtaposition of who Subaru tries to save and why. And I think it's just so genius that like it's so easy, it's like so well to sense these themes kind of being pushed forward through the story even from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm. That he wants to save those he knows, even if he hates them over anyone that he's never met before.
Exactly.
Yep, exactly. As like, yeah.
As he says in this next chapter after this, I can't save everyone, but if I can't save those in front of me, what am I? Do you know what I mean? Like, he knows he can't save everyone. He knows he's not omnipotent, but he knows he can't stand around when people are being hurt in front of him.
Yeah, his perspective is very narrow, and I think all of us kind of feel the same way. Like, even if we don't want to, would you try to save, 400 people that you knew or 500 people you didn't? You know what I mean?
It'd be the people you know every time, right?
Every time, yeah.
And like a big part of Subaru's character is being able to get to know and learn and bond with all these different sorts of people, whether they're random gladiators on an island that he can build into a literal hype army, or it's someone that he has done nothing but butt heads with, argue, and sometimes actually fight over and over and over again, and still wants to try to help them. Because through his return by death, he has seen that no matter the circumstance, no matter if someone is literally torturing them, holding knives to their throat, killing him, that there is another way, that there's always another way that he could try to handle this situation, that he could try to save them, even from just being and having to do awful things, that he can try and help.
And as we were alluding to earlier about the themes of like talking about Japanese society, right? And what Teppei maybe wants to see in the youth for the future of Japan is that level of empathy, right? Like that desire to help those in front of you, and to it's a very loving way to look at the world, right? Very, very, very much a way in which I think Yorna would approve of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, community focused, right?
Yeah.
You want to love the people around you.
Like it's hard to care for a statistic and a number. Like, I know these people live in this place, but I've never been there. I don't know them. But when you know those around you, isn't it a truly beautiful thing to help those around you, to pursue that? Like, without doubt, without stopping or trying, knowing you're not always going to succeed, but always trying regardless. And I think that's a really beautiful idea.
It's why Yorna's power can beat back even the witch. It's like one of those things where we can tell, Teppei is trying to say is the strongest power out of everything here. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also is finally something that can get through to Vincent that this is, I don't want to say like a new goal, but Vincent's whole life has been up to the moment where he was supposed to die, and he's now past that. For the first time, he doesn't know like what he has to do.
Yeah.
What he has to do, like what's next. And it's just a point of, even as much as this isn't necessarily how it's explicitly explained, but he's been given this new objective from Subaru of save who you can.
Yeah.
That's what he can do to help the Vlachian Empire. Because almost as much as Subaru does, Vincent hates the way of the Empire as well.
The wasteful death, right? The pointless death. Those who die and it's pointless. Like it's wasteful. Like it's people losing people like that. It's not just losing a statistic or someone that's useful. It's losing like a genuine, like a valuable life.
It's a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is now a way that he can show that he does love the people of the Empire. It's kind of harkens back to the whole reason why like the wolves and the mole people are so despised here, and the anger that led to in Todd, and their whole culture and civilization comes down to killing someone who was beloved by everybody, and that led the nation down the road that it's on now.
When we think about it, that's what most conflict is from.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from a place of love.
You could trace it all the way back, and it's like who threw the first stone, right? But at the end of the day, it's a cycle of violence and hatred.
Which he has taken any chance he can to change it.
To try and
he hasn't had the kids to make that fight, but he's set up the scenario to let it go to someone else. That
like Burstets, right? That conservative element of fighting against that new age, right? That new empire. Mm-hmm. And I think Subaru is framing this to Vincent as that opportunity for him to build that new empire. Like, he even refers to, let's just destroy it. Like, let's just build it anew.
Yeah, we talk about it. I mean, even in this arc, I mean, one of the things is that very interesting.
Oh,
whether it's
oh,
sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, you were cutting out a bit.
All these things, all these new concepts that Subaru is bringing to Vlachia is exactly these modern aspects of going past this sort of lineage that's been built in Vlachia. Like even Vincent's family lineage as an emperor, he wanted to end. He was like okay with that. He was like, yeah, let my bloodline die out and let this old way of thinking that's been kind of propagated through it die alongside of it. And the things that Subaru really showed him, obviously, besides stuff he's talking about now, with the idea of caring about the people around you and stuff like that, like led by emotion, saving whoever you see in front of you, is also like the stuff that's like impermissible, which is just like having fun with your friends, or like finding self-expression, or being upset, righteous anger, like all this stuff,
or even allowing yourself to have friends and relationships in the first place. A lot of the view of many like state before nation before myself kind of kings, even historically, it's always like the king has no friends, right? Like the king has no real relationships. It's because you're king, it's all political, right? But I think, and we talked about this before, of the element of Vincent not wanting to be a father, but I wonder if that's the element of not wanting to repeat the same mistakes, because I feel like Vincent, at least from how I understand him from here, as this very emotional man that wants these relationships but's not allowed it. I wonder if he does want to be a father too, right? Like he doesn't want that burden on his kids.
Absolutely. He hasn't become a dad so far, because the moment that the prophecy came through and he died, any kids that he had would have to fight it out. Even though he's not a father, shows immediately that he's a loving father, right? Like, yeah, he doesn't want to let that continue. So it's going to, at this point, pass to his sister, probably for like the first time ever. It would pass to his sibling. History. Yeah. Or it even could, because all the siblings would always be dead. But he's not allowed himself to have these relationships at all. It's like why Yorna's rebellions keep ending in rebellion, because he can't let that marriage happen. Because he's not allowing any relationship to exist. And honestly, part of it's probably as well that he doesn't want that person to be feeling the way he feels right now with Tisha being gone. Yeah. Of this feeling of loss and grief. Something that Vincent, I'm sure, felt many times in his life. I mean, he fought and killed several of his siblings. Which he clearly did not want to do. No, not at all. Like, it led to the point of, you all won't participate, and then like try and stop the ones who are going to force our hands in this. Yeah. And this is why it feels so appropriate for this moment of him to just say, okay, you round up all your kingdom people and you leave to Subaru, right? And then put that mask back on of Vincent Vlachia, because that's where you feel safe, right? All the people you care about. Yeah. The I can do this myself. I don't need you. Like, and Subaru immediately perceives that he's putting on that mask of Vincent Vlachia, the Sword Wolf Emperor, again, to forget about Chisha's death in a way, to forget about all this pain, because he's not had the ability to allow himself to deal with these things before, right? And that's when Subaru then steps in and punches him, because he knows that's the solution in this moment, right? Just like Otto did for him. Yeah, he has to get through to him that you're not thinking clearly. And we get this funny narration moment of Subaru being like, through all of my loops through Gwenhive and all of this shit, this is the most satisfied I've ever felt in this empire, punching this fucking idiot. And it's just like, absolute cinema writes itself, Yeah,
the most absolute cinema moment is, I want to hit you. My objective is to hit you. My desire is to hit you. I'm going to punch you right now because you're a fucking idiot.
That is so good.
Yeah, was he's like, do you not hold your life dear? If I were to raise my hand, the flames of the Yang sword would scorch your very being. And he's like, yep, not dear to me. Compared to letting you go without a wallop, I'm gonna punch the shit out of you. It's gotta feel good for Vincent to like have someone here who's not
treating him, or who is treating him just like a person as well.
Yeah, well, it's that equality, because Vincent's always been treated as Vincent Valaquia the Emperor, or Vincent Valaquia the potential successor to the Empire. But
Vincent wanted this. He wanted to break down this way. Like, even he wants to feel something. This is his moment.
This is his therapy session. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He knows that Subaru would be the kind of person that would probably get that in touch, even though he's having these anger and emotion towards Subaru. I think logically he knew that this would be a solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's... Oh, man. I love that also Subaru is addressing Todd at the same time he's addressing Vincent when he's saying all these things. Of like, this is what I wanted to do to Todd, right? Like, you idiots. It's not even like a hatred.
It's his hatred towards the Empire.
It's his hatred towards the Empire. He's like, your ideology is stupid and selfish. And not just selfish in the way of, like, hurting others, but in hurting yourself, sort of selfish. The lessons that Subaru has learned, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I feel like all of Subaru's lessons culminate in this moment between him and Vincent. It just feels so good. And he just tells him, is it so bad that I tried to save the people in front of me? Like, what is wrong with that? Tell me how you can find fault in that for me, huh? Like, he's confronting him directly, and I don't think Vincent's ever had that confrontation before in his life either. It's a challenge, right? And I think that's probably really emotionally significant for him, because people have challenged him in a rebellious sort before, but they've not challenged the ideology like that, truly.
Right.
Well, until Chisha does at the end by sacrificing himself instead.
Exactly. But that's when the confusion comes, right? But we then get the moment of him calling Subaru distorted, which, is just hands down one of the coolest moments in the series, I think. Just nailing it again and again. Vincent knows who Natsuki Subaru is, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. This idea that, like, you know, we talk about him being like right. That's right. Like, Vincent is coming from the perspective of the Emperor. He's not Vincent at this moment. You know, like, he's never been Vincent in such a long time, because distortions, as he puts it, is not a way of leading a country. It's the way of living your life. You know, everybody has their own sort of distortion. We try to even it out as much as we can. I try to see the truth as much as I can. I mean, everyone tries to do it to the best of their ability.
Yeah.
But like, or I'd hope so, right? But like, reality comes to a point in which the truth only functions so far in living your life happily. You know, you could, like, I could be aware so much, and Vincent could be aware, and he is, right, of all the harm that's happening in his empire, all the hunger, all the famine, all the war, all the killing, and constantly be thinking about that his entire life, and only caring about trying to resolve that fairly, right?
I think also now in this moment, knowing that all of those people that have died in all of these events, whether present under his rule or in history, had someone like Chisha, right? For them, or that was Chisha for them, right? And I think that's him also directly connecting with the grief and emotions of all of the loss that has come about because of the way the Empire works, in a small way too. After having like all of this breakdown and conversation, we get to the true heart of what Vincent wants to say, which I think is just really sad and just a very beautiful and true expression of grief, which is, I'd resolved myself for my own death. I had not resolved myself to lose someone dear. Why did you leave me behind and die, Chisha? And this is the first time we see Vincent cry.
And it like really hits to the heart of what he's really angry at is the whole situation. He's mad at Vincent. He's mad at Chisha for leaving. He's mad at the Stargazers for predicting it. He's mad at himself. All of it. And he's mad at himself for living through it instead of Chisha. And it's a point of pain that I can't even begin to comprehend yet.
Yeah. And it's something that Subaru knows all too well. So even though in the narration when Subaru says, I'm sorry to him, and he knows those words will never be enough, him knowing those words will never be enough means something, right?
Yes.
And we then get to the heart of the issue of struggling against fate and, you know, knowing that they both scoff at the idea of being friends after this, right? They're like, they're sitting down next to each other. They're eating this appa together. That Subaru's offering.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, that's the end of it where they split it in half and showed they're at like the same the same place. But here it's like they're really getting into it, just like, so you're not a stargazer, like this isn't true.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been wrong.
And he's like, nah, that's more the witch cults thing, and you know me, I kill those people.
Right, and I do remember here is where Vincent shows that he not only knows like who the person in front of him is, but he is fully aware of who he is in the context of everything. Like, you went and killed 2 sin archbishops already. Yeah. You're famous for fighting alongside the power of a great spirit, for vanquishing these great mobbies. You are like a very well-known figure. It's not like a new thing.
And it comes back to the thing you said previously about you being an ordinary man, but it's like you're an ordinary man that's done like these great and amazing things. And I think that's also a regarding thing to himself, as he feels like in a lot of ways he's an ordinary man that isn't superhuman, and he's not been able, I think, to have that level of emotional satisfaction he thinks Subaru has gained from what he's done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big moment of self-reflection for him, and we get one of the most wholesome things in this entire series, where they're sitting next to each other and they're discussing all of this at the tail end of this conversation, and Subaru tells Vincent that Chisha was an incredible person.
Yeah, that he has no idea who he was, he didn't choose to save him, that he has no context of who he is other than he's the guy that kicked you out. But I mean, he's obviously he must have been incredible.
Yeah, he's an incredible person, and the reason I didn't save him is because I didn't know him. Not just because I didn't know him. It's more, I think, saying I didn't know he existed. Right? It's like
I didn't know to save him.
Yeah, exactly. And then Vincent is like he still needs that resoluting answer of why Chisha did what he did, right? And Subaru's just straight up like, oh, I think I understand what Chisha was feeling. With fate trying to kill you, you resigned yourself to the opponent that was fate. That's got to have irritated him. He's telling Vincent, you pissed him off. He was angry at you because you gave up on your life. And that Vincent, your real enemy is fate itself. Just like me, we're brothers in this sort of battle. Even if we don't like each other, even if we're not friends, we're brothers against this battle of fate. And he even has like this narration moment of thinking, how amazing could Vincent Valakia be if he knew what his true enemy was, right?
That he's battling against forces, not just this goal.
Like, it's conceptual at that point. That's where it really begins to take off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we get the moment of Vincent, yeah, I apologize to this Knight of the Kingdom for my acts previously, and Subaru's like, I apologize to the Emperor of the Empire, and they've restarted their relationship from zero,
which is great. And like, I still do want to talk about like the rest of this phase a bit, though. A lot of it is kind of just switching the conversation that the two of them had into the plane of action, even going back to you're going to save only the people you care about, so take all of them and leave, until another great moment from Emilia of pulling out like, well, how many people are in the Empire?
Yes.
22 million.
50
or
million.
However many, 50 million. Well, then I'm going to save 50 million people. And going up against Otto and him having the whole scheme and plan is great. But we have been going for a while, so I do think we should wrap up to kind of the last surprise of the phase, with Julius and Anastasia showing up, as well as the main man, Halibel the Admirer.
Oh, he's fucking here, boys!
Yeah.
And Zakir. Zakir's back.
Any guess that was coming at all from you two?
No, not at all.
Not right now, no. I mean,
no, I'm not. I'm gonna be honest. I was expecting him to show up at like the end of this arc or the beginning of the next.
Yeah, that felt right. I think like him showing up to like resolve some aftermath or whatever made a lot of sense. I really didn't have a clue he would show up. Now, I had a slight feeling because I was like, Kararagi sort of next, or we have to start threading.
We have to,
plant some seeds, And this was a great way to do it. And I'm so glad that he's back. Like,
it's so good to see him in the main story.
Yeah, he's such a good character, and now we get to see the way that he starts interacting with all these characters the real canon.
Yes,
and it's more than just Rem and Subaru. It's now everybody. It could be. It's just like my brain.
I could see the flex of his relationship with Subaru and the Remith in even their small dialogue they had in this chapter together. Oh my god!
Because honestly, out of all the strongest people in nations, he's the best person
He's just a chill guy. It's like I don't have to hide who I am.
He's a
I don't really have to worry about anything.
I mean,
I'm just here. I'm going to do what I can.
The most comforting presence.
In a way, he's kind of the opposite of Todd, of literally being like, he's one of the few people in the world that proclaims himself to be a wolfman.
Right, and it's such a beautiful piece of irony that the Sword Wolf Empire that has persecuted all these people forever is facing this great disaster, only to have aid come in the form of
a wolf.
What's effectively the last known wolfman.
Yeah.
And this guy doesn't make any excuses. He doesn't.
Nope.
And that's the thing. He hasn't had a victim complex or anything like that. The opposite, really. This guy is he does what he does.
Mm-hmm. He's happy for other people. His whole thing is being the admirer of liking to see how good other people are.
Yeah, loving to see the small things in life, right? Like the small connections people make, the love they have. He admires that. And I think he's an example of one of the wisest characters in the series, I would argue.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And I'm so glad to see him come in now. I think this is a perfect time for him to be introduced in this melting pot.
Yeah, he's the guy who smokes weed, but is actually really not just like a druggie or whatever. He's just really chill.
Yeah, he's the guy that actually kind of ascends and gleans new wisdom from it.
Yeah, he and Yorna can talk shop about what they smoke and how well it helps them out.
That's very true.
Or she can show him how she fights with her Kizaru.
Have you ever had this certain mix of herbs, man? It just hits different.
They'd definitely be admiring how
it was really satisfying. And Anastasia and Julius are back too. Julius is very Julius in nature, and it's just like, wow, I knew you would have gotten up to something, but this went past my expectations.
Yeah.
I love Julius and Subaru's relationship so much. It's so good to have my boy back.
It is. It's great.
And it's kind of cool to see Anastasia too, I guess.
Well, it's like everyone that Subaru has an interesting relationship with, like a very provoking one, is now all here together.
Mm-hmm.
With the exception of Todd, who's been taken out.
Goodbye. But
yeah, exactly.
The last thing we'll rush through and mention is Heinkel.
Yes, Heinkel and Rowan met up.
Al, Priscilla, and they're all missing, and Heinkel and Rowan meet up, the two drunkards.
The two dads of the strongest are just together in the city that's overrun with zombies.
It's so funny. Heinkel's just like, he's worried of the threat that Rowan's going to produce, and he's just like, what are you going to do with me? Well, I was going to get a drink. Want to come with?
Yeah, that's good. We predicted this.
Yeah.
So cinema. We predicted this so well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it just makes so much sense. It honestly does. It had to have happened. I'm so glad it's happening.
It's Tappei is putting the right characters with each other, and he's playing off the interesting things that he can do. It's great. Overall, we've predicted a lot of this stuff from Arc 7, but there were still some great surprises along the way.
That just means that it was foreshadowed and set up well.
Sometimes predicting something's happening means that it is good and should be happening. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not to say that in spite of that. But what I will say is, I don't know about you boys, but Arcade is pretty peak so far.
It is. Great. This is the strongest opening to an arc, which it helps the fact that it wasn't the opening to an arc, it's the middle of one. But it's such a strong phase. Every part of it is great.
Yeah, to be fair, this doesn't necessarily feel like a middle of an arc anymore because of the quick derailment or descending from, the denouement of the scene from just now. Fleeing from the capital, Lupaguna, and then now onto the next leg of the journey where they're all kind of collaborating and doing their own stuff and figuring out what they're going to do next. It's very exciting. Yeah. Gives them time to breathe.
It leaves us with one other big question that I want to leave you two off with as we wrap up tonight. Where the hell is Al?
What the fuck is he doing this time?
Yeah, he's like, hey, Sphinx, we're doing this together. Oh yeah, cool for this. All right. He's like, we got a plan. All right, let's do it. I'm 100%.
Oh yeah, he must be searching for Priscilla. So where was he in Priscilla's chapters?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. What are you up to, Al?
He's like, teacher, what are you doing? And then she's going to be like, yeah, this is the way to. I mean, I gave you the pride witch factor. Blah 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 blah.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be the
You're calling that Sphinx is his teacher. Interesting. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think like there's gonna be a moment in which he has to choose besides Priscilla and Sphinx is the idea. Like there's going to be a moment in which he's going to be like, hey, are you still going to play around with that, or are you going to fulfill your destiny, whatever that is? Because like there's a part of it that I'm like, is there a part of this that's due to the observers still or not? Like there's parts of me that I'm like, I still don't know what Sphinx's exact objectives are, is my real issue.
Yeah,
because her objectives aren't to bring back the witches, maybe, unless the mortal sacrament's about that. But then again, it's like, if that's the case, then she's opposed to the observers, and he talks about stars all the time, so maybe he's with the observers.
He's being set up for some sort of shenanigans and scheming, that's for sure.
I'm getting closer and closer to like
we're getting to the path, you know.
Yeah.
I need to know what he's doing though, because I tell you what, it's going to be a thing where we don't see him for like 2 phases and then he pops back up. It's going to happen. Like he's gonna be MIA for at least half, or at least
like, hey bro, I was here the entire time.
Hey bro, how are you doing?
Sus.
I was having a great time trying to find Priscilla. Don't know where she is. Can you come help me? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Gonna grab.
It's one of those things where now that like this has been the case for the entire story, where nobody's like, Subaru, you have the authority of envy. Like, I can tell that you have the authority. What's going on? Like people now, I'm like, oh, people can't tell that Al has the authority of pride, right? Like,
yeah,
it's one of the things where I'm like, okay, I guess they aren't suspicious of him because
Olbart was getting suspicious of him. He's the only one that's like, you're doing something weird right now, and I can't tell what it is, but it seems to have been weaker than it was before.
Mm-hmm.
So he's, at the very least, someone is close to figuring something out about him.
Maybe that's putting heat on him.
Because, like, I wonder if they think it's something like the soul marriage technique, because there are abilities in, I guess, like, the mortal sacrament.
I mean, even like the shinobi techniques and stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Or just stargazer ability. Like, if you know you're going to make it out of something, maybe you just do whatever maneuver you think feels right at the time,
like
and you're going to get through it.
Should be guided through, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because like
how Ooblik walks through danger knowing that he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
It adds another element. I was really being set up for like some sort of betrayal here, I think. I don't know to what degree that is.
Well, eventually 100%. I'm just like, I don't know how soon it'll be.
The thing I claim for that is because we get a specific moment of narration with Subaru being like, I've really grown to trust and value Al. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm just like, to pay, what do you say?
There's stuff to know.
And that guy can't die, so it's like, it's not even...
Well, the thing is, he can. If Al gets like shot, if Todd went after Al is out of the story, because his whole thing is he has to trigger it,
right,
and like set his stuff up.
Yeah, you're right.
Whereas Subaru's, he can respond to surprises and figure them out afterwards. If Al gets taken off guard, then that's the end of Al.
But I think what's gonna like end up happening is that, like, this is just my idea, that like Al is going to come up against a foe that he needs to come up against as soon as he's like outed or whatever. And like his power, like, as again, we've seen that he's like weak or whatever, but he's willing to die like millions of times if it takes to. That's how his authority works. Like in the same way that people are like, like Subaru's authority could be limitless, right? But like he doesn't want to die. Like Al doesn't care. It's like it's short like loops like that.
It's the way that Return by Death worked when Satella wasn't taking care of Subaru through it.
Yeah.
When it was just resetting over and over again, 2 minutes in the past.
It's death without love. It's death like a video game.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But I think that's a great place to leave you guys wondering what's coming next. Some great character setup, great character writing, and nowhere to go but up from here.
Yeah, this has been one of our longest ones yet, but I think we had a lot to talk about and we covered all our bases. This was a great read and a really fun podcast, guys. Thank you for anyone that's been listening up till this point, and I hope you have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are.
And until next time, bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.